WENJ-HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
And welcome aboard a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform at Mike Gill Show at 97.3 ESPN on YouTube. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show. You out there, thanks to Nick and Pete for stepping in yesterday over at Ventnor Social. We had a nice day with the winner, going to see the Phillies play the Orioles at Baltimore's Camden Yards. And, of course, that will be before the trade deadline because the Phillies need some help. Yesterday, I'm sure the guys talked about it. I was thinking about it as Bryce Harper essentially comes out and says, we need help. And then Don Mattingly comes over with a Randy Macho Man Savage off the top rope and says, why are you saying this, essentially? We've got a battle on our hands here, guys, and it's because the Phillies, they know the sand is going through the hourglass, and they do not have enough ammunition right now to get this thing done. Bryce Harper knows it. Don Mattingly, does he know it? You know, I'm not a big blame the manager guy, but I see a lot of people who are already tired of Don Mattingly with some of the decisions that have been made here recently. I'm not going to sit here and point the finger at Mattingly and say he stinks as a manager. Excited about Mattingly taking over. I do give him credit for steering the thing into the right direction, but I think Mattingly is the manager. The team improved, not because Mattingly is great at his job, but because the team just started to play better baseball against a lesser group of teams. Now as the sand has kind of gone through the hourglass to where we're at the trade deadline, Don Mattingly is being questioned as the manager of the team. I'm not questioning him as the manager of the team. This team's not good enough. They weren't good enough for Rob Thompson. It got him fired. And they're not good enough for Don Mattingly. And now people are starting to be critical of Don. Did he leave this guy in too long? Did they leave that guy in? And quite frankly, you know, before, I really felt that Rob Thompson played a lot of things by the book, which sometimes maybe we looked at and gave him a little bit of a pass on things because he played by the book, which is what the front office wanted from him. I wonder, with Don Mattingly and his kid being his boss, how much did they throw the book out a little bit? Because if Don Mattingly's making decisions based on his gut instincts, he's making bad decisions. Now, I'm not going to sit here and rip him. The team is not good enough. But in this series, they scored a lot of runs and they lost. They scored a lot of runs in the series, had a big lead yesterday that they coughed up because their bullpen. They've lost in every way imaginable in this series against the Marlins, in which the Marlins had lost 12 straight games coming into this series. 12 straight. And they swept you. And in the games, you had leads in the late innings on, what was that? I guess on Monday?
Well, yesterday as well. They had a 6-0 lead yesterday.
You go back to Monday. You had the loss from Duran, in which he blows the save. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go kicking and screaming that Duran lost the game, but they trailed 6-0 in the fifth inning yesterday, the Marlins. 6-0. Major League Baseball teams entered yesterday 12 wins and 464 losses when they trailed by 6 or more runs in a game this season. It happened yesterday. 6-0 in the sixth, and they lose, or the fifth, or I guess it was the fifth or the sixth. I don't really remember.
It was the sixth inning, yeah, because Luzardo got through 5 innings, and you were kind of like, all right, you know, he's hanging on to this thing. He's doing all right. But then it came out in the sixth, and that's when it started falling apart. And there was this feeling that, Nick and Pete talked about it yesterday. The question that you've asked before, will we purpose it here, is Don Mattingly doesn't seem to have a good feel when it comes to Luzardo and Nola, when to keep the guy in and when to take the guy out.
Yeah, and I don't know, because Luzardo yesterday, 6 1/3, 6 earned, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, 6 straight starts with at least 5 innings and 1 or fewer earned runs, which was the longest. He had been pitching better than any Philly. And that's where I think Mattingly said, hey, Luzardo's better than our bullpen options. We're going to ride with him right now. And then he leaves him out there too long. It was the first loss by the Phillies this year when leading by 6 or more runs. The last time they lost a game leading by 6 or more runs, August of 2022. They had 104 consecutive wins in games where they led by 6 or more runs. That's how bad the loss was yesterday. And that's how bad this series was. You went into the series. They had lost 12 straight games, the Marlins. You were 5.5 back of the Braves. So you were starting to fade a little bit anyway. The Marlins, who fell to 4th place in the NL East when you started this series, they come in, they sweep you. They've now jumped over the Nationals. The Phillies are 6.5 back, and the Marlins are now 8.5 back. Now, listen, yes, the Phillies are still the wild card team, but they have dropped to the 3rd wild card team. So if the playoffs were to start today, yes, you actually got out of playing the Cubs in the first round, something that I have said you do not want to do is play the Cubs. But now you're in the 3rd spot, which means you would be playing the Braves in the first round in the playoff series. And I think a lot of Philly fans will be like, okay, great, we'll play the Braves in the playoffs. We've beaten them in the playoffs. This season has been a disaster for this team. And as LeBron James gets traded to the Sixers, the Eagles start training camp yesterday. You're going to hear what Vic Fangio said about his defense. We'll have that for you coming up a little bit later on today. We got a great show for you. I can't wait. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I am remotely working today, doing my show from the hotel. We played yesterday, which is why I was not on the air yesterday. We had a game in the middle of the day yesterday. So we have a day off today with my team in the regionals. So we have a day off, but I'm still up in the hotel room doing the show. But I will tell you this. Everybody is wondering if the Phillies even can make a move to help this team. Now, some of the things that we're hearing. Zach Neto. That's a name that's kind of come on recently here. We're going to talk about this all. Fastball is going to be a good one today. Zach Neto would be a stud. He would be able to hit in the middle of your lineup. He's a right-handed bat. The one thing he also does is he plays shortstop. Now, do you play him at shortstop? If that's the case, there has been some talk that he would go to short, Turner would go to second, and then they would move Bryson Stott over to third because there's some thought that possibly Bohm would be involved in that deal. At this point, is Zach Neto enough? I don't know. A right-handed bat in the middle of your lineup to play shortstop, it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. You need a right-handed bat in the middle of your lineup, and your shortstop stinks. So that's been something that's been discussed. 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. 609-403-0973. We also have these rumors that came out last week about the Phillies being involved with the Blue Jays for Jeff Hoffman, and some other names have been mentioned there. I don't know that Hoffman solves any of your problems. I know that Phillies fans generally like a reunion, but I don't know that Jeff Hoffman helps this team. Who are some of the other names being mentioned from the Blue Jays? I think Dalton Varsho has been a name that's come up.
John Heyman came out with Dalton Varsho about 30 minutes ago. Here's the audio from John Morosi. He was on MLB Network this morning, and he talked about a specific group of names that he is looking at what he is hearing about between the Blue Jays and the Phillies potentially.
You look at the Phillies roster, one team in particular, Lauren, is a really good fit for a trade right now with the Phillies, and that's the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays have a reliever they could give them, Jeff Hoffman, a familiar face in Philadelphia. They've got multiple starters they could potentially move, a Kevin Gossman or a Shane Bieber, to help address the Phillies rotation need. Also, from the standpoint of position players, how about George Springer?
Springer's interesting. Somebody brought him up on a text board or whatever a couple of weeks ago. Springer's a right-handed bat. He's 35 years old. I don't think he's hitting with the same power that he has had in the past. I mean, he certainly is a name that a lot of people would know and be excited about. I don't know that Springer's the right guy at the right time. I mean, maybe, he had a good year last year. He's not having a great year this year, not having a lot of power this year. In fact, he has the same amount of power as Bohm does. 12 homers, 234, 317. Yes, I know that Springer is a better hitter historically than Alec Bohm, but right now it's really a wash with what those two guys are doing. And it's safe to say that potentially that George Springer, 35 years old, might not be nearly the player that he was before. Alec Bohm's hitting 226 with 13 homers. He actually has more homers than Springer does. Varsho doesn't do much for me at all. He's a left-handed hitter, good center fielder, low on base, low power. I don't know how Varsho does anything other than if you tell me Varsho is an upgrade over Rincones. Okay, fine.
Marginal upgrade.
Marginal. Yes, he's an upgrade, no question. But he's a center fielder. Where's he playing? You moving Varsho's a good center fielder. You playing him in center and moving Crawford to left and then Marsh over to right? I mean, how are you doing that? I don't think
that would be hard to swallow.
Dalton Varsho doesn't do anything for me. So the names with the report with the Blue Jays don't do anything for me. I'll tell you this. I'm more inclined with what we're hearing right now and what's going on. Now, everybody thinks Dave Dombrowski is going to do something. We heard Jeff Passan this morning basically saying that Dombrowski always gets the job done. Actually, it was Tim Kirkshin. Tim Kirkshin said, he always gets the job done.
Yeah, we got that. That was on game night last night with Q Myers. This was Tim Kirkshin late last night with your boy Q here on 97.3 ESPN.
Dave Dombrowski is in charge of the Phillies. I've seen him for years and years operate like this. He's very quiet until the last minute, and then bang, he makes a major deal.
Yeah. I would say this to Tim Kirkshin, who I like a lot, and I think is one of the great baseball reporters out there. I don't know what Dave Dombrowski he's been watching in Philadelphia. He always gets the job done. Part of the reason they're in this mess is because Dombrowski has not got the job done.
Right.
He has swung and missed at the deadline outside of Duran. Now, Bader, you could say he swung and hit on Bader last year. Is that fair?
Yeah, and he also swung and hit on Duran last year.
But Duran, I just brought him up. So Duran, fine. Bader was a good move. I'll give him that. But the problem is he had to make the Bader move because he signed Kepler, and that didn't work out.
Correct.
He signed Garcia, and that wasn't working out. He brought in Romano, and that didn't work out. So he had to make those trades because moves he made in the offseason didn't work out. So then he had to fix the problems that he was unable to fix in the offseason. So he didn't make the team any better. He just improved the mistakes that he made.
Right.
I don't give you credit for that.
Right. How do you give a guy credit for, hey, congratulations, each year you fix your mistakes? Like, doesn't it feel like it's like half a dozen one or the other?
I signed Kepler. That failed, so I had to go trade for an outfielder. I signed Romano. That failed, so I had to go get an outfielder. If Kepler worked and Romano worked, my trades could have been served at getting other places better on the team instead of fixing the problems I had at the beginning of the season. What was the reaction yesterday to what Bryce Harper had to say? Are people siding with Harper or are they siding with Mattingly here?
Most of the people who texted into the text board yesterday were on Harper's side because I think a lot of people seemed, at least the vibe that I got, Mike, the people felt like Harper was saying what needed to be said. And, I don't know how much of what Mattingly said that you heard, but the way he said it, Mike,
Do you
came
have
off.
the Mattingly audio?
I don't, because of an issue that you know about.
Oh, I didn't know if they used it yesterday. That's all.
We used it, but now it's not where it's supposed to be.
Gotcha. Okay.
But to me, Mattingly sounded passive aggressive yesterday. He sounded like a guy who was, because he made the comment about, all players like to be GMs. And it's like, he just came off as a guy who was just like, I don't want to be bothered by Bryce Harper talking about how the team needs to be better.
Mattingly, I think, didn't need to say what he said. Harper, I don't have a problem saying what he said, although I don't think he should have said it. His premise is right. They need help, but he sounds desperate. And it sounds as if the Titanic has hit the iceberg in the relationship here. And
the honeymoon's over.
Right. This honeymoon of Harper, he's saying, I'm here. I see where this team is going. I know we're not good enough. And I'm going to send the message to the GM like he sent the message to me. You're no longer elite. Well, we need help. Why? Because you haven't done a good enough job. To which I could turn around to Harper and say, well, listen, he spent $300 million on you. Are you good enough? I'm not saying he stinks, but is he elite? He went out and spent $300 million on your buddy to play shortstop, and he stinks. So he went out and spent $15 million a year on your buddy to stay here and catch, and he hasn't been any good. So you can make an argument that some of the recommendations that Harper has made as the quote-unquote GM, that they haven't worked out. So I can see both sides here. But as Tim Kirkjian stated, he thinks Harper is right in this situation.
Bryce Harper is right. It's not good enough for the Phillies just to make the playoffs. They have to do more than that. They have to roll into October. And right now, well, they just haven't played very well. They need a right-handed hitter, preferably an outfielder. And until they get that guy, the Phillies aren't going to be complete. Although Zach Wheeler the other day, his velocity was down a little bit. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But the Phillies are going to do something.
Yeah, they're going to do something. Is it going to be enough? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I will say this. I think Harper realizes that the team is in trouble for this year and moving forward. He knows it. Kevin Cooney was on Tuesday's show, and he talked about it. The 2029 Phillies, the 2028, the 2029 Phillies, they're going to be dreadful to watch. Yep. I think the word he used was unbearable.
He did. He said unbearable.
But just like this is going down the road of the 08 team without the World Series. 08, you win that World Series. Then you lose, then you lose, then you lose, and then you become bad. For 10 years, they were bad. Then they get Harper in 2019.
Yep.
They're average in 19. They're average in 20. They're average in 21. They finally break through in 2022. So from 2012 to 2022, they're a bad to average team. Harper sees that's on the horizon here. The problem is putting a Band-Aid on stuff isn't going to fix this mess. When you spend the ungodly amount of money that you spend and those guys don't produce, you got a problem. You got a problem. 609-403-0973. What do we got on the text board?
We got Ryan EHC. He says the nail in the coffin was when the Phillies paid Schwarber $30 million to be a DH this offseason. You could have invested that money in position players or signed anyone else to be your DH for less money. Now you're about to throw all your prospects away for temporary fixes, says Ryan in EHT.
I mean, listen, I had said, Ryan, if you remember, all offseason long, I said they were in a terrible spot with the Schwarber deal because if you don't sign him to come back, what does your team look like? And if you do sign him to come back, you are taking a chance that he's not the Schwarber that he was last year. Now, he's got the old Joel Embiid gastroenteritis.
Yes,
I think he's got a couple. He's got a couple of bouts on the toilet.
Yeah,
That's why he hasn't been playing, right?
The internet was joking that Schwarber was fine until he started eating the Miami food.
Yeah. Well, and there's some talk that he won't be ready to play tomorrow against the Orioles.
Yeah, there was
speculation. Who won that prize yesterday? Who's going to Baltimore?
Glenn in Northfield.
Oh, awesome. Glenn in Northfield. You're going to enjoy it. Baltimore, Camden Yards is awesome. Go down there. Well, the bus trip's going early. Go down there. If you can, jump on the boat, the boat taxi, and go over to Fells Point for a little while. And stop on over to Max's Tap House. Don't stay there too long, Glenn. You don't want to miss the game.
I was going to say Mike Gill, the unofficial tourism guide of the city of Baltimore.
Yeah, well, I would say there's a good brewery, Glenn. If you're a brewery guy, it's called the Ministry of Brewing. It's in an old church. Get the Wispy. There's your happy hour Friday pick of the day, a Wispy. But that guy's not wrong. But the problem is that the Phillies let go of Schwarber. What does this lineup look like?
Right. You're missing 33 home runs out of the lineup. I mean, this offense probably, would look nothing like it is now without him.
I thought they were in a bad spot with him, with that whole situation. So I thought they were in a bad spot with the Schwarber situation. And so far, my reasoning has not come to fruition that, hey, maybe he gets old real quick and he doesn't produce like he did the year before. He's producing like he did last year, so the contract doesn't get a lot of, there's not a lot of problems with it, right? Not a lot of people complain that Schwarber's not living up to the money because he is producing for the money you paid him. Schwarber, yes. Harper's been good. I would say Harper's been really good. But
yes,
he hasn't been
overall. Elite. Right. He hasn't been, which is funny you said that because Eddie in Ocean City chimes in, says maybe Harper should have said that Dombrowski isn't elite anymore.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have, or maybe he should have retorted to what he just said.
No, Eddie's saying that Harper should have said Dombrowski isn't elite anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't think Dave has been elite. I don't think he's been doing his job. But that's the problem. Like a guy like Kirkshin, I think Kirkshin, he's saying Dave always gets the job done. I think, Dave, you're letting Dombrowski live off his reputation a little too much. What else we got?
Squeeze one more here. Pat in Ocean City says, kudos to Don Mattingly for firing back a Harper. I was a Bedlam at the bank, but Harper is growing tiresome with his inability to lead or hold himself accountable. Where was the willingness to go to right field when Garcia went down? It was great to see Mattingly fire back. That's from Pat in Ocean City.
That's from Pat, who just did not like Thompson and has no clue on what the manager actually does. It's obvious that the manager isn't doing anything to change this team at all. I don't see Pat saying, the manager left the pitcher in too long, or he didn't. But if Rob Thompson do it, that jackass in Ocean City would be the first person to be complaining about whether or not Thompson was doing his job. Hey, Pat, if I was the kind of guy that was brainless and wanted to blame the manager, I could go left, right, up, down, A, B, and select start on how bad Mattingly has been. However, I'm cognizant enough to realize that the manager has very little influence on how these teams win and lose games. Now, what I will say is I do think Mattingly has had some influence on how little or they have used analytics less, I believe, with Mattingly as the manager as opposed to Thompson as the manager.
100% he has. And, we talked about this yesterday, me, Nick, and Pete, about how Mattingly does feel like he's going with his gut more often than the analytics. The problem is sometimes that gut is wrong.
I agree. Glenn in Absecon says, here we go again with a superstar not taking accountability for the mediocre to just not good enough play by the players presently on the team. Between a questionable bullpen and the lack of production from key positions on the team, they're just not good enough. Glenn, amen to you. Like if I hear Harper say, we need help, I would say I have 3 guys making $30 million a year. I got a catcher making $15 million a year. I have 3 or 4 pitchers, maybe 5 pitchers making at least $20 million a year. So to me, I look at this team and say, listen, you guys are being paid a hearty amount of money. Look at the Marlins payroll next to you guys, and you're going to say we need more help? You can't beat the Marlins? You got your ass swept by the Marlins?
Yeah,
When
the
you had
Marlins.
When you had leads 6-0 late in that game, you couldn't get that job done. You're going to say we need help after a game where you had a 6-0 lead? Come on, man. And I understand Harper's not wrong in what he said, but it's a bad look. You lose 1-0. You can't score a run on a day that Aaron Nola pitches. And Nola's been, let's be honest, not great. But you couldn't get a run to help Nola out on a day that he pitches pretty good? 609-403-0973. When we come back, MKB, we're going to get his thoughts on LeBron James coming to Philadelphia, the impact he will have, what it means, and what it says about the Eastern Conference now. Michael Kasky-Blomain covers the Sixers. He joins me from the Trust the Mikes podcast. That's coming up next here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN.
We have the Phillies covered.
Swing and a drive, right field, way back, forget it, out of here. Kyle Schwarber hammers one over the right field wall.
Get the best Phillies baseball coverage on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN.
I scream. You scream. We all scream. Because Wendy's famous small classic Frosty is just $1 for a limited time. More screaming. Happy screaming. So
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 2 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by the law offices of Craig A. Altman. Call the law offices of Craig A. Altman for a free consultation today. All right, welcome back to Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and, of course, you can watch the show on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. LeBron James, we now know, of course, that he is a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. There's been a lot of talk about how the Sixers may use him and how he'll fit in. Michael Kasky-Blomain, 97.3ESPN.com. Trust the Mikes podcast. And, of course, LeBron, Michael in Philly. It's the first time we've had a chance to catch up since that time. Let's get your takeaway first off on LeBron in Philly and just what excites you the most about how LeBron fits in with the 76ers.
I got no sound, Mike. I can't hear you.
He can't hear me. All right. Well, we'll try to get him. I do hear him, but we'll try to get him locked in here in just a second here on the Sports Bash. You know, one of the things that I think everybody's looking at is this conversation that he could be a point guard for this team, that he could be a kind of a point forward or play a lot of point guard on this team. I think over the last couple of days that we have heard that kind of intrigues me a lot because I talked about this the other day, and I want to see what MKB says when we get him locked and loaded here, is that it kind of reminds me of when the Sixers had Ben Simmons. And Simmons in that role was what the Sixers kind of excelled with. The one problem with Ben was he didn't shoot. LeBron almost like a Ben Simmons, what people thought Ben Simmons could be, Michael. So let's get your takeaways on how now that the dust has settled, LeBron is here, there's talk about him in the role that he would play. What kind of impact do you ultimately see LeBron having with this team?
I think he'll have a big impact, Mike. I think that, like you said, he fits a lot of the gaps that this team really needed to have coming into the season, whether it's rebounding, whether it's playmaking, whether it's clutch scoring, like all areas that I think this team has struggled with in the past. LeBron still at this point in his career, 23 seasons in, 41 years old, he's still a guy that can do all those things for a basketball team. He can make plays down the stretch, whether it's through passing, whether it's getting his own bucket, whether it's, getting baskets for other people. He's just a guy that can still have a major impact on the basketball court. And the fact that there's so much talent around him, I think will benefit him in a major way, that he won't have to carry so much weight offensively over the course of the game. He can kind of more pick and choose his spots. And then, in the clutch moments of games where times in the past the Sixers maybe haven't had a guy that they could rely on down the stretch of the game, I think LeBron can kind of come in and fill that role for this team.
So when people take a look at where this team might excel that's different from where they've done before, what area of the game do you think LeBron will change the dynamics of an area for them on the floor?
I mean, where to start, Mike? Half-court offense, transition offense, rebounding. A lot of the ways, like you said in that lead-in, a lot of the things that Ben Simmons did, not to make this all about a Ben Simmons conversation, but a lot of the stuff that he did for the Sixers that they've kind of been missing in the time since then is exactly what LeBron can do. When you're talking about the playoffs and it's a half-court offense and things slow down, I mean, he's one of the best we've ever seen in generating offense for himself, for his teammates, and the same thing in transition, like Ben Simmons used to do. He's a guy that can get a rebound on the defensive glass and immediately ignite a fast break with it, push the tempo, and he's going to be surrounded by scorers and shooters everywhere. Tyrese, Jaylen Brown, Edgecombe, Anthony Simons, Joel Embiid, there's scorers all around him, and he's a guy that his playmaking at this point in his career might be underrated. He's still averaging over 7 assists a game for the Lakers last season. He's averaged over 7 assists every single year for his entire career, and he's still a guy that can generate so much offense for you. And I think at times in the past we've seen the Sixers kind of sputter down the stretch of games, especially last year in clutch time scoring. The offense kind of just bogged down. It was hard for them to run things through Joel in a half-court set, and I think LeBron will almost come in and immediately address that issue and make them a team that's very viable in the half-court situations.
What do you think this does for Joel? To me, that's the most fascinating thing with this whole thing. What does this mean and do for Joel Embiid?
It should push him and motivate him, Mike. If Joel is who we think he is as a guy and a player, having an all-time great like LeBron should do nothing but motivate Joel Embiid to, reach his full potential. I mean, we don't need to go over LeBron's accolades and the kind of work he puts in, but it's known how much effort he puts in outside of the game. We see how great he is in the game in the 48 minutes on the court, but we also see through social media the 5 a.m. workouts, the post-game workouts, like all the stuff he does to take care of his body. It's stuff like that Joel at this point in his career still, I think, could improve upon in that area. And there's literally nobody better than LeBron James to kind of lead by example in that regard. And he's a guy that Joel is going to respect. They shared that Olympic run in Paris in 2024 together, and just the reputation that LeBron brings. He's a guy that Joel's going to respond to, he's going to respect, he's going to listen to. Maybe that wasn't always the case with some of the other guys that the Sixers brought in the past, but LeBron's a guy that leads by example, and I think that Joel will be really benefited from having a guy like that around to kind of model his own, not his game after, but his approach to the game. I think could take a huge step forward with LeBron in town.
Michael Kasky-Blomain, MKB, at the real Mike KB. Follow him for more Sixers stuff. And, of course, Trust the Mike's podcast. We'll be back with a ton of Sixers this season.
Yeah.
Do you look at who takes the last shot, who's the guy in the big moments? Is that something that they figure out? Does it really matter? It's a night-to-night thing. Is that something that fans make too big of a deal of?
Yeah, I think it is, Mike. I think it's something that fans are talking about. And ultimately, it's something that the Sixers will figure out. But to me, that's a good problem to have. And I also think the fact that there doesn't have to be one answer, Mike. If it's a game where Joel's dominating in the post and the other team has no answer for him, and it's the clutch, you run the offense through him in the post and see what happens. If it's a game where Jaylen Brown's been going off and getting the best of whoever's guarding him, give it to Jaylen. We know what Maxey can do in the clutch. I think the fact that there's so many guys that could really deliver in those situations is going to be a huge benefit for the Sixers. And I'm sure there'll be a little bit of an adjustment period, as is always the case with new teams, especially teams that are stacked with this much talent. And maybe early in the season, guys will want to be hesitant, be like, oh, maybe LeBron should take the shot, maybe Joel should take the shot. But I think as the season moves on and these guys get more familiar with each other and get into the flow and the rhythm, I think that's a thing that really, it's kind of going to work out on itself. Some of it, obviously, Mike, will be up to Nick Nurse to design things for the team to maximize the guys on the floor. But to me, that's not a concern. And if it is, it's a good concern to have, as opposed to times in the past where maybe you didn't have enough options or reliable options to take that last shot. Now that you have a few guys that you could trust, I think that's a good thing for the Sixers.
Where do you see Jaylen Brown in all this, MKB? I mean, he obviously got out of Boston for reasons of, one being, many people opine that he felt disrespected because he felt that he had a chance to be the man, led him to 56 wins, and then essentially kind of got shopped back down or pushed back down to the number 2 guy. He comes here for about 2 weeks. He's the man.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of where?
Yeah, that's my one question, Mike, with him mentally. Obviously, him not having been here in Philly, not having covered him firsthand. I don't know Jaylen that well, but it's a situation where the role is great for him, but I'm just curious to see how he approaches it. I know there was a report, I think it was from Shams at ESPN, that Jaylen was approaching this upcoming season with, quote unquote, no ego and just coming in and going with the ride. I think the fact that he was really big in recruiting LeBron to the Sixers tells you that he is approaching this kind of from a selfless perspective and from a team first perspective. So it'll be interesting to see what his role is. But to me, he can do everything that Paul George did for the Sixers team over the past 2 years, just at a higher level at this point in his career, Mike. He's younger, he's more athletic, he's more explosive, he's more durable, he's more reliable. So he'll be, to me, a super glue guy for the Sixers team, where they're going to be expecting him to, be their top perimeter defender on most nights, and then also be if not the top, one of the top offensive options. So the role is going to be immense. It's just a matter of how Jalen views it in terms of like you said, if he wasn't happy being the second fiddle in Boston, how's he going to take being, just a piece of the super puzzle in Philly? But if he can wrap his mind around that, I think the basketball aspect of it, the role for him is great. And he'll have an opportunity to really contribute to this team on both ends of the floor and be like a huge factor in how much success they're able to have.
Well, and you wonder, you say a second guy, I mean, where's Maxey fit into all this? If LeBron is doing a lot of the ball handling, where does that do for Maxey? And then a lot of people, I do hear a lot of concern about VJ and his development and kind of where he fits into this mix.
Yeah, and those are all fair concerns, Mike. I mean, it's going to take sacrifice from all of these guys to make this work for sure. Maxey's not going to get as many shot opportunities as he got last year. For sure, VJ, I mean, he's a guy that coming into his second year looks like he has star potential. He's probably going to have less of a usage load on offense than he would have had if the team remained static and stayed where they were. But all of these guys, if they look at it the right way, an opportunity to play with other elite great players and obviously an all-time legend in LeBron James, like the learning experience for these guys will be huge if they can all approach it with the right perspective, which so far, Mike, it seems like everybody's saying the right things. Maxey obviously is ecstatic that his friend LeBron has come in. Jalen is approaching it with no ego. Joel is healthy and excited. So right now in, July 30th, everyone's saying the right things, Mike. We'll have to wait and see when November, December rolls around if everyone is still on the same page. But so far, I think that it seems like all the key guys are approaching it by putting their ego aside and, moving forward with the best intentions of the team.
Michael Kasky-Blomain, Trust the Mike's podcast, and he'll be covering the Sixers again this season, 97.3 ESPN.com. What about the depth of this team? A lot of times we see, I don't want to say super teams, but a lot of teams that have a lot of talent in the starting lineup. They don't have much off the bench, and that usually does them in. What do you think about the depth of this team?
I like it, Mike. Honestly, I like it. I think they did a really good job. I think the Anthony Simons pickup was huge. That's a guy that can – something that they really didn't have, especially last year, Mike, when we were talking and Maxey and Edgecombe were forced to play 40-plus minutes a night and carry and create offense all the time. Simons is a guy that can come in, put up 20 and 5 on any given night, like run an offense. He's a guy that could easily be a starter, I think, on some other teams. They got him at a bargain deal. I like the KCP pickup for some added depth at the wing. Obviously, he's a little bit past his prime, but to me, he's still a productive two-way guy, like almost the prototypical guy that you'd like to have on a team like this coming off the bench. Obviously, Dean Wade, who the Sixers signed as a potential starter. If LeBron hadn't come to Philly, you're probably looking at Dean Wade being the starting power forward. Instead, he's going to be one of the first forwards off of the bench. So outside of the center spot, Mike, which I have some concerns about when you look at the depth behind Joel Embiid and Adem Bona and Huck Porty, who they signed from the Knicks, I'm a little bit worried about that depth, considering the fact that Joel's going to miss games one way or another. But outside of that center spot, I think they're pretty well set at the guard and perimeter positions, Mike.
What about that? Let me get your quick opinion on Joel. I mean, there were some reports that Joel has assured LeBron that he is good. He's not doing rehab this offseason. And I go back to what he said at the end of the playoffs last year, that the knee is not a problem anymore. He believes that those are behind him. So what do you think that Embiid is? This whole situation invigorated him to play more games than we anticipate.
So that's the question, Mike. Do we want him to play more games, or do we want the Sixers to kind of get him to the playoffs healthy?
I'm sick of this, just get him to the playoffs, because that didn't work. He played 35 games this year. So, okay, you missed 50 games and you still weren't healthy enough to go. I feel like you guys just need to play basketball. The best teams of my lifetime all played basketball together, not just when I felt like it, not just when it was convenient. They played every day, every night, and you just got to play. I mean, figuring out the whole right formula outside of Kawhi in 2019, when has that worked for anybody?
No, you're absolutely right. And I think, Mike, with this team specifically, it's going to be very important that Joel plays, especially early on in the season, because they need to gel. Mike, none of these guys have played together. LeBron, Jalen, like all these new faces in here. I think it is exceedingly important that Joel plays. I agree with you. And it does seem like his health, Mike, is trending in the right direction. We talked about this. I think the appendectomy kind of clouded how people were viewing Joel, because it led to him missing more time and everything. But that was a fluke thing.
He didn't miss games. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. He didn't miss a game in the playoffs because his knees were bothering him. Nope. He missed games in the playoffs because of the appendectomy.
Yeah, correct. 100%, Mike. And he's like you said, he said that the knee is fine. The appendectomy is now a thing of the past. He doesn't have no surgeries this offseason, no issues. So on paper, yeah, he's as healthy as he's been that I can remember in recent memory. And I think we saw it, Mike, toward the end of last season. He was rounding into form. He was feeling good. And then that appendectomy hit out of nowhere. It was the same old story. Oh, another freak injury for Joel. Oh, missing playoffs again. But that was, that's a one-off, Mike. So heading into this offseason and into the training camp in a couple months, he's healthy. Will that, keep up over the course of an 82-game season into the playoffs? We'll see. But as of right now, that all that reporting, from what I've been told, is correct. He is healthy. He let LeBron and the team know that he's healthy, and he's approaching this season as a guy that's healthy and ready to play basketball.
That's Michael Kasky-Blomain. Trust the Mics podcast. We'll have plenty of new episodes coming up with Sixers coverage and more coverage at 97.3ESPN.com. And, of course, you can listen to all Sixers action right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, MKB, this is going to be a fun year.
All right, Mike, good talking to you.
At the real Mike KB on the Twitter X platform. Coming back on the other side, this hour of the show brought to you by the law offices of Craig A. Altman. We'll take a look at events that happened. Do you remember these events? They're coming up next.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Keeping the fans entertained and happy.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
The 2 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by the law offices of Craig A. Altman. Call the law offices of Craig A. Altman for a free consultation today. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. It's time for today's Do You Remember events that happened on this day, the 30th of July, Josh. We are all the way to the end of the month. We are ready to go. The calendar will flip to August on Saturday. On this day in 1995, do you remember Whitey, Richie Ashburn, and Michael Jack Schmidt both entered the Hall of Fame? It was one of the most emotional days in Philadelphia sports history as Mike Schmidt and Richie Ashburn both get inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. It was a sea of red that day in Cooperstown. Ashburn, he gave an iconic speech reflecting on his days with the Whiz Kids, and then the broadcast booth with Harry Decay, and then, of course, Mike Schmidt, who was the all-time third baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies. And many people believe the greatest third baseman of all time, it was on this day in 1995. My gosh, that makes me feel pretty old that Mike Schmidt got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1995. I was graduating I had just graduated high school. I was getting ready to drive off to West Virginia to go to college for the first time there, Josh.
George Brett says that Mike Schmidt is the greatest third base of all time. So I think it's true.
It could be. It could be. He was awesome. He was unbelievable. I think since then, in this era, we've got guys who played third that were shortstops, like A-Rod went to short. I know that people don't like A-Rod. And then, of course, PED and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you don't think about that. There's some great defensive third basemen. There were some great third basemen for a short time. But Mike Schmidt did it longer and probably better than anybody else who ever did it. All right, coming up this hour of the show, brought to you by the law offices of Craig A. Altman. And, of course, the next hour on the Sports Bash, we got a lot going on with the Phillies. It is time for the fastball. And I got a heater with Jeff Kerr and Oscar Budajin coming up next.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
All right, 3 o'clock hour, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. It's time for today's edition of the Phillies Fastball, the fastest Phillies conversation on your radio. It's brought to you by Ventnor Social. We had a good party there yesterday. We gave away a trip to go see the Baltimore Phillies game on Friday night down at Camden Yards. Congratulations to our winner, Glenn, who stopped out to Ventnor Social, a bunch of people hanging out, and he wins the trip to go to Baltimore's Camden Yards. So congratulations to Glenn, and we will have some other great events coming up for you, in the fall. But will the fall be great for the Phillies? Another frustrating loss last night, and guys, we got to get into where this team stands after being swept by the Marlins. We've got Bryce Harper versus Dave Dombrowski, with now Don Mattingly getting involved as well. You'll get swept after having a 6-run lead yesterday. Guys, let's start with that. Where do we think this team feels like they are a couple of days before the deadline, with their star player saying, we need help, the manager essentially debunking this and telling him to stay out of it, it felt like?
Well, I can tell you right now, I don't think it matters what Don Mattingly says, and I don't think he cares what anybody thinks he's going to say, because Don Mattingly will not be the manager of this baseball team after this season. I'm pretty certain of that. He wasn't even their first choice to be the manager, the interim manager. So really, I think it's Don sticking up for his son, but at the same time, it's also, you know what, Bryce, keep your mouth shut right now. I'm playing the middleman here. You got what you wanted out of this. You got Trey Turner. You got JT Realmuto. This is the team you assembled, by the way. And now you're pleading for help. Maybe hit better than 160 in the month of July.
Oscar, you feel like there's some tension brewing between Bryce Harper and, goes back to Dombrowski last year, elite. He says, hey, I'm not elite. You haven't been elite doing your job. Why don't you help us out a little bit here? And Mattingly seems like he's the guy stuck in the middle. Jeff, you brought up his son. I think that's an interesting conversation to this as well. But Oscar, how do you kind of view what's going on with the Phillies over the last 48 hours?
I mean, it is disappointing. I think the word is frustration. I know everybody wants to use the word tension. I think it's frustration everywhere. I mean, from the players to the manager to the coaching staff to the management office. I mean, the reality is, if I were Middleton, I would get Harper, I would get Dombrowski, and I would get Mattingly in a room and said, guys, we're in the same boat. Look, our objective is to win the World Series. I think we have a team that could at least challenge. Dombrowski is going to make a number of moves. Let's row in the same boat so we can get to the destination we all want to get, because this have really, I mean, what Mattingly did yesterday, I mean, to me is unacceptable, to be honest with you. I know that Harper went out of his way to do his thing. I mean, the back and forth between him and Dombrowski, there is some dynamics there. Look, Harper's trying to win, and he's trying to win. If there's one thing we know from all the years Harper has been here, it's that he's a competitor and he wants to win. Is he the best leader of this team? Probably not. Schwarber is a much better leader of men than he is, based on what I've seen, both being in the clubhouse and outside. But look, Harper leads by him being Harper. And Harper needs to play at an elite level, and he has not played at an elite level in the month of July. And you combine what Harper said with what Mattingly adds to the fire, it doesn't make any sense. I think there's massive frustration across the board. And look, to me, if I were Middleton, I get everybody on the boat. Guys, we're in this boat together. Let's make it happen. This team is good enough to make a run. How far is that run? It's a big question mark.
I don't know, Jeff. Does Bryce Harper agree that they're good enough to make a run?
I don't think he thinks they're good enough, but I do agree with Oscar. You can't question Bryce Harper's commitment to winning, right? I think that is 100% accurate. You know, Oscar's been in that clubhouse. He knows how Bryce Harper acts. I mean, my issue with Bryce Harper is simple. I don't have a problem with what he said. But, dude, talk yesterday, man. Like, you got to talk. Like, you said those comments, and then Don Mattingly says what he says. You're in the visitors clubhouse. This is an opportunity for you to speak to maybe 3 or 4 reporters. But again, he got the message out he wanted. I think we need some help. And that was calculated. I think he's frustrated over what has transpired. And look, Glenn has said it on here. Glenn from Northfield. Dombrowski needs to be held accountable for his inaction during the offseason. I would agree. I think Dave Dombrowski should be held accountable for that. But I also don't think Dave Dombrowski is at fault for Adolis Garcia having a season-ending injury, or Brad Keller having a season-ending injury, or Jose Alvarado and Tanner Banks not being reliable lefties. That's on the players. And I keep telling people, the fix is Trey Turner. The fix is Alec Boehm. The fix is Brandon Marsh. The fix is Bryson Stott. These guys have to be good enough, and they're not. And
well, I would interject with this question, though. Yeah. Those guys have been around since 2022. You keep waiting for them to be good. Maybe I look at the GM and say, you keep putting too much faith in guys that have let you down in the past.
Well,
is that
this
fair?
is where I would tell Bryce Harper to be quiet. You say Bryson Stott's an everyday player. Is he? I'm not certain of that. I don't think Bryce Harper really wants Alec Boehm here. I could be 100% wrong on that, but it just feels like there are guys on this team that Bryce Harper is just
I don't know about Boehm. I think what he thinks about Boehm is he shouldn't be hitting behind me in the lineup. You want to hit him 7th? Fine. You want to hit him 8th? Great. But he shouldn't be hitting 4th.
He's been screaming for a guy hitting behind him. He's been screaming for a long time, and he is right on that because I think if there is one thing that we all said coming out of last year is this team needs a 4th hitter. And ain't Adolis Garcia. We talked about it here. He's a replica of Castellano from a hitting profile standpoint, and he's not going to be any better than Castellano was. Yep. And look, that's what we got. I mean, and the reality is he got hurt. Look, it is frustrating. We've been where I would blame Dombrowski is we have had the same guys for 5 years. If you continue doing the same thing, expect better results, it's insanity. So that was said a long, long time ago. So the bottom line is you have to check the 3. Now, here's an interesting thing, guys. How about if he checks the 3 now? How about if he trades a couple of the starting guys and make a couple of moves?
I was thinking.
I mean, look, you got to do something. You got to do something. You cannot be. And I know he's talking to Toronto. Somebody. I mean, one of the guys out there, one of the beat writers,
Dalton Varsho, who, by the way, Oscar, as you know, Gary Varsho was a longtime scout manager in this organization. He brought Reading their last championship.
Yeah, he ain't. I mean, I like Springer. If there is a hitter that I like Springer. The problem is that Springer is at DH now, and that's the issue you're facing. So I like the idea that Bryce brought his glove off. If we bring somebody like Springer that is a winner.
I like Springer too. One problem with Springer is you're bringing in a guy who's got less home runs right now than Alec Boehm does.
But to me, this team is playing for the postseason. To me, since this team is good enough, this team is going to make the postseason. Now it's a big question mark, right? After this slump, I mean, we've lost what? We're 3-9 since the All-Star break. We've lost 4 series in a row.
But,
I mean,
Oscar,
the game yesterday, guys. The game yesterday.
You brought up a good point yesterday. You brought up a good point this offseason, right, Oscar, about Adolis Garcia. You brought him in for October. Well, he's not going to be here in October. Exactly. So why not give Springer a shot?
I like Springer. I like his profile. I like what he brings, his experience. He's won with Houston. He's won with Toronto last year. I really like Springer. I know we're talking names right now. It's more of a conceptual thing. I think it's time to break some of the things. I mean, break out of the thing. If it's trading Bryson Stott, if it's trading Baum, if it's trading Mundito, so do something. You cannot stand still. That's a reality. If you stand still, we're going to end up in the same place.
I would even go far enough as to trade Brandon Marsh at this point. Why not?
Look, why not?
Platoon player.
Why not?
If you could get a package and some stuff in return for Marsh, who's had a really good year, but I think we're seeing is not an everyday player. You got to go that route. I have no problem. Listen, I have no problem moving any of the guys on this team that have been a part of the reason why you've come up short. We know they can't move Turner. We know they can't move Harper. We know they can't move Schwarber, Real Muto. Those 4 guys probably aren't going anywhere. But Stott, Boehm, Marsh, Crawford, anybody else. Crawford hasn't been a part of the reason why.
There's a lot of people that are on the table right now. And Would you count Andrew Painter as that? I'm like Fosker. I wouldn't trade him.
I would not trade him, but at the right package, I consider it. I mean, right now, look, guys, how long are we going to wait? I mean, Schwarber and Harper, every day they're a day older. I know, by the way, we're all a day older every day, by the way. But the reality is that, I mean, their baseball life, I mean, every day that candle becomes less and less strong.
This is where I would probably trade prospects. This is my argument for it. Bryce Harper is not elite anymore. He's not. He is very good. He is not elite.
He's very good. He's not a difference-making elite player.
No, I mean, look at the numbers the last 2 years. Everybody got mad. I pointed that out.
Harper is having issues with left-handed pitching. Harper is having big-time issues with left-handed pitching.
And
I mean, to be very specific.
And which is weird for him because he's usually good against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a tough times, guys. Yeah. This team has to come together. If I were being Mr. Middleton, I would call all those three guys in the room and said, look, you know what, guys? This is not the time to start speaking out. Let's try to find a way. Dombrowski's going to do his job. Harper, you do your job. Mattingly, you do your job. And let's get in the same boat. I
really feel bad for Trey Turner. I really do, because he takes it on the chin from the fan base, from the organization, right? We know he's not having a good year. Who's the guy that always seems to end up speaking to the press? Trey Turner. It doesn't matter if he's 4 for 4.
Schwarber does too.
Schwarber does too. But like Trey Turner always really seems to be the guy. And I wish Bryce would do that a little more, not when he wants to do his calculated message.
Well, Bryce,
by the way, I'm still okay with him doing that.
Oscar, to your point, Harper 203 against lefties, 313 on base, 304 slug against lefties. His OPS is 617 against lefties.
That's what you're benching Brandon Marsh for.
Yikes.
Look, he needs to, I mean, look, but I'll give it to Harper. I'll take Harper any day of the week in the postseason. The guy's a money player. He loved the limelight. I'm fine with him. I mean, I'm fine with him in the limelight.
I'm with Jeff on this, by the way. Like, yeah, Dallas Green's. How many times are you going to fire the manager? That already happened.
I want to ask you guys about that because, I'm not a big blame the manager guy. I don't know that the manager, what his role in today's world is. I think there's a lot of analytics and pregame discussions, but I do think Mattingly has more. I feel that he has gone less by the book than Thompson. And some of these decisions recently, I think you're starting to see. And it's amazing to me. I opened up last night after the game. How many people are saying, I'm done with Mattingly. He's killing this team.
Last night when I was on with Nick and Pete, that's all people wanted to talk about. That's all we talked about was Mattingly not pitching Bola in the 7th.
Yeah. My view is where I do see an issue with Mattingly's managing the pitching, particularly the relief pitching and even the starting pitching. I mean, he's let Nola out there in times where you cannot Nola go one more inning. I mean, we saw it last week.
Correct.
We've seen it this week. I mean, he has issues managing the pitching stuff, and I do believe that's where Dusty Watson and some of the guys that are on the bench that have maybe a little bit more experience, more on the managing pitching stuffs. I mean, Dusty not necessarily, but
Well,
he needs help. They need help there.
Dusty's mad. It's just not the major league level. But
look,
I agree with your point.
Yeah. I said it here before. I think we should have given Topper one more chance, and that's in those 9 games. They pulled the trigger. Fine. I mean, Mattingly did a very good job in the beginning. By the way, right now, since the All-Star break, it feels like the beginning of the year, in my view. It feels the same way.
Yeah. Jeff, you know what, Oscar? This is where, remember, you and I were so on board with the Thompson thing, right? He gets those 9, 10 games, whatever. I always looked at it this way. I thought it was, let's get rid of this guy because I want Alex Cora, and I ain't get him.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing that I'll mention, everybody talks about Bolin and Look, Bolin have never in his entire life pitched in the postseason. I mean, Bolin, do you trust Bolin? I mean, look, he's doing good. I mean, yesterday he allowed a home run. He's been pitching really, really well. Do I trust that guy to be the arm in the postseason? That's why Dombrowski is going after Hoffman.
Oh, and by the way, because Kerkering and Alvarado pitched the last 2 nights, and they were pitching in a game where they were trailing. They were not available. So that's where Rob Thompson was smart. He looked at it everybody's like, oh, Rob forfeit. No, Rob did not forfeit. Rob is just playing the long game because that's how he won 58% of his games.
Yeah, he essentially knew, okay, we'll live to fight another day. Now, yesterday, you're up 6-0 in that game. That's the first game the Phillies have been up 6 or more runs and have lost since 2022. That shows.
And Rob Thompson was the manager that. And remember, everybody thought maybe. I remember that game, and everybody thought, oh, maybe the Heat is finally getting the Rob Thompson, right? Never really happened. Like, I think they won 3 straight after that.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, this is not about the manager. This is about the players, and the players need to start performing. Yeah. Schwarber needs to start getting healthy. He cannot miss games. I mean,
but you know what? Maybe the gastrointestinal thing was a good thing because now I can rest his back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, there's a lot of things out there right now. I want to get some reaction. You mentioned Painter earlier. I'm wondering if he's a big chip for them. Gage Wood, is he a big chip for them? But
Gage Wood is definitely a chip.
Zach Neto, in or out on that on that move? Would you guys
Oscar,
like that?
Do you like Zach Neto?
I like Zach Neto. I mean, Zach Neto, would he add value to this team? Absolutely. He's a very good hitter. He definitely adds value to a team. The problem is the domino effect. First of all, who you're going to give, who you're going to get away. Who you're going to give away. The second thing, what are you going to do? Are you going to move him to short, move Turner? The domino effect of that could be very, very costly for this team.
I think the Phillies really want to find a way to get Trey Turner out of shortstop right now.
Where are you going to play him at second, and then you're going to move 3 guys?
Yeah, I agree. Is Stockton to go to the third? But then again, with the way they're playing, why not change it up?
Well, Stott or Bohm might most likely be a part of that deal, I would imagine. So if you traded Stott
and Bohm's gone after this year, Stott's got another year of team control, so maybe they'll want Stott.
Exactly. One change and no more than that, guys. It just it's like changing the catcher. You change the catcher, change the entire dynamic of the pitching stuff by making that change.
You know what I think is a problem here too. Everybody complain about JT, and I get it, I do. Who do you play when he has a day off? Man, is that bad?
Well, right. Right now, the backup catcher. And this is why we had a conversation about a week ago, and it said, and it was like, hey, these are guys who are available. If you could get an upgrade to any position, you got to go after it, regardless of who plays that position currently. If the best guy I can get's a catcher, I got to get a catcher. Sorry, JT. And that goes to Zach Neto. If the best guy I can get for this lineup happens to play shortstop, then I got to go get a shortstop.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that, but it's just, and I'm with Oscar. What are you giving up? I assume, look, I want Gage Wood to be here. Something tells me I don't think he's going to be here after his next start this week. I could be wrong.
Now, this one's interesting. Ryan's watching on YouTube. He says, I'm not trading anyone. Let Davey Dombrowski.
I'm not against Ryan on that.
But wasn't there a report out there that they're talking about extending him?
Yeah, they're going to extend Dombrowski.
They're going to extend Dombrowski. Look, just think about it, guys. Everybody that thinks that Dombrowski should go away, whatever. What happened before Dombrowski came here? Let's just think of that for a second.
Not good. Everybody likes to blame Dave, but and I know everybody thinks Oscar and I are big Dave defenders, whatever. But yeah, we know how bad this thing was before he got
I will tell you guys, and I'll ask you guys your opinion. I brought this up earlier. This feels like the 08 to 12 area, but in 08, you got a World Series that you always kind of had in your back pocket. And then from 12 to 22, they were really
It feels
bad.
like 12, doesn't it? It really
it's
feels
starting
like 12.
to feel like you're going to 12 without the World Series, and 13, 14, 15,
and then
16
12
might be tough.
And you got to remember in 12,
I agree with that.
I had no problem with Ruben Amaro being bullish because if you remember in 12, Chase Utley did not come back till June.
Yeah, they were about
500.
500.
Did not come back. They were both hurt.
It feels, Mike, building on your point, it feels like it's that team that came after that loss to the Roy Halladay game. That team, things started coming down in a very fast way.
Yeah, I would agree. I hate to admit that was the end, but it felt
It was. Harper got hurt. Ryan got hurt. The whole ordeal.
Ryan Kerkering's Game 4 game felt like that. It kind of felt like the end. And Oscar said for years, 24-25. That's probably the end of the run. And he said this 2 years ago.
I wonder if Bryce Harper is seeing the end and is trying to extend it as long as possible because he doesn't want to go through
And I would agree with him.
I think Bryce Harper, when he signed here in 2019, they were just an average team. 2020 average, 2021 average, then 2022 they came out of nowhere. And I think Harper says, I don't want to go back to 2019. We need help. And I think he's right.
I do too. He is not wrong. He's not wrong.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I mean, but by the way, every time Harper speaks, you got to listen because the guy is sending messages, just like he did, like, for example, a few months ago that he talked about a stud should be an everyday player when they were platooning him. He's sending messages. I mean, you got to listen to
He did not like my question following that. What makes you think that? He was not a fan of that. I think he was ready for it.
No, and by the way, Stott this year has hit better against lefties than he has against righties.
Like Stott is not the problem with this baseball team. Let's be realistic here.
No. Look, I think relief pitching is been over the last couple of weeks the biggest issue. The hitting, I mean, the lineup is become as big of an issue as the lack of a relief pitcher.
I think the ultimate problem is, there's a couple problems, right? But I think one
you
of
know
them
what
is
Stott's average is against lefties?
It's higher than righties, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's hitting .313 against lefties this year.
Yeah, he's had a really good year against lefties.
389 on base, 450 slug, and
he hits over 300 runners in scoring position.
I told you, listen to Harper. I told you, listen to Harper. He knows what he's saying.
And you know what? That's the thing.
He should be the GM, by the way. How about if we name Harper? I mean, the GM as well.
In a way, isn't he kind of the GM because he's the superstar?
Yeah.
The problem is, against righties, he's been abysmal.
Yeah. And that's what I think. I mean, it's weird to call him that, but back to my original point here. I think this is part of the problem. Bryson Stein, Alec Bohm never got better. They just kind of they're okay. And the core got older. We're seeing that now. Real Muto, Harper, Castellanos ain't even here. I mean, they are so fortunate that Christopher Sanchez developed and Zach Wheeler became Zach Wheeler and Jesus Cesaro is really good. By the way, Don Mattingly kept him in too long yesterday.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Brandon Marsh is down to 280.
He's a lower OPS now than he did last year.
He was hitting 324 about right around before the All-Star break.
I am one of Brandon Marsh's biggest fans, but
I said to some friends, Harper needs to talk to him again.
Yeah.
They need to have a conversation.
He is who he is.
I'll tell you guys, that's between now and Monday, it will be interesting. We know Harper's put the pressure on. We know they're trying. What do they have? And other teams want to make moves. By the way, if the Dodgers go out and get Skubal,
it's over. Don't even worry about it. I wouldn't even trade it.
I think they will. I think they got so many prospects that they probably will.
Yeah,
I mean that's
I would agree.
It's either them or Milwaukee. It'll be interesting to see how hard Milwaukee's loaded with prospects.
I would love to see Milwaukee get him for the competitiveness of baseball, but Dodgers get him. Why would you even?
But the reality is, guys, this team cannot beat the Dodgers, cannot beat the Brewers, cannot beat the Braves. That's the bottom line.
Right now, they can't beat anybody.
When is Painter's next outing, Jeff?
I believe it's Friday. Hold on. I just got the game notes, so I can answer this for you. It is.
Yeah, he pitched it's a Sunday that he pitched? Saturday. Sunday.
Yeah, he pitched Sunday.
So he probably pitched Saturday.
Yeah, I believe he's turned in the lineup. It is tomorrow night. It is tomorrow night.
So Friday night, Painter will get another
he's on a regular turn now.
And the Phillies tomorrow do not have a pitcher announced for the game.
Oh, Lord.
I think it's going to be Brian Keller.
Just saying, it's a TBD at this moment.
Yeah. Don Hannon on Sunday. And again, this is another big Don Mattingly quote that kind of went under the rug about how tired Harper and Schwarber were. But he also said, hey, look, Brian Keller's still here, so you kind of get the direction of where we're going. Yeah. So it's either going to be Keller or
it's a bullpen day. It's a bullpen day with extended innings for Keller.
They haven't won a game with the number 5 starters turn the rotation since May 18th. So that's where I agree with Bryce Harper. We need some help.
Terrible. All right. Well, we'll see. It's TBD listed. It's Phillies fastball. Jeff and Oscar again tomorrow on Friday. We'll probably see who's pitching for the Phillies tomorrow night. Painter will pitch for the Lehigh Valley AAA team tomorrow, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. The deadline is closing in. Don't forget, Phillies fastball brought to you by Ventnor Social, 6417 Ventnor Avenue in Ventnor. All right.
Good luck with your team, Mike. Go get them, man. Go get them. We need the championship.
Seriously, good luck.
All right, guys. Thanks, man.
Take care.
We'll see you guys tomorrow. And, of course, the Phillies Fastball segment here on the Sports Bash. Each and every day, the fastest Phillies conversation on your radio, 97.3 ESPN. Yeah, we play tomorrow night. We have an off day today at the regionals. We'll play tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. So, yeah, if we win 2 more games, we will be moving on to the World Series, hopefully. So thanks to everybody out there for paying attention. Thanks to Oscar and Jeff as well. All right, when we come back, the Sports Bash is live on 97.3. I want to tell you about my friends at Key Acura of Atlantic City. My guy Rocco and his team have built a loyal fan base of repeat customers and doing things the right way year after year after year. And you guys know Acura delivers the kind of performance, precision, and dependability you can count on. And the team at Key Acura backs it up with outstanding customer service. Go see for yourself Key Acura, Atlantic City, the small but friendly dealer. Tilton Road and EHT, online, KeyAcuraAtlanticCity.com. When we come back, the Eagles are at training camp. And for the first time, we hear from Vic Fangio. What does he have to say about the state of his defense for 2026? You'll hear from him coming up next.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
On 97.3 ESPN.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
ZipRecruiter.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. One of the things I love most about a strong community is that people show up for one another. That's exactly what happens every day at the branch's outreach in K-May County. Their team, volunteers, donors, and community partners work together to provide meals, stock pantry shelves, distribute clothing and personal care items, and connect individuals and families with advocacy, case management, and the support they need to move forward. For some, it's a warm meal. For others, it's groceries for their family, help navigating a difficult situation, or simply knowing there's somewhere to turn. The need for those services continues to grow, and every day the branches depend on people who believe in giving back to keep this work going. Whether Cape May County is your home or your favorite place to visit, you can be part of that team. Visit thebranchesoutreach.org and make a donation today. Together, we can strengthen the community we all love.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
The 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleaf.net. All right, welcome back. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. It's great to have the Eagles back. And, of course, with the Eagles, we get a lot of stuff getting you ready for the season through training camp. And the first time this year, we're going to hear from the Eagles defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, who for the first time this year is asked about some of the stories on his defense. We're about to play that for you right now. He spoke a little earlier today before practice. And one thing is for sure, he signs Jalen Carter. We talked about that on the show the other day. Then what's next? Well, you got Cooper DeJean, you got Quinyon Mitchell. But what does the Eagles defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, think about the 2026 Philadelphia Eagles defense? Here is Vic Fangio.
Vic, what's the plan at safety? Is that Marcus's job to lose?
I'm going to be like Fauci and just take the Fifth Amendment on all questions. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What was the question?
You had that lined up. The safety position, how are you going to handle that? Is that Marcus's job to lose?
I wouldn't put it that way. I mean, obviously, we're running Marcus there with the first group, with the nickel group, Cooper with the base group. But Carter's doing fine, too. It's competition.
Cooper basically locked into that because we're not taking him back outside.
Hopefully. But, things can change, if we lose guys or guys aren't playing good.
What have you seen from Jalen Carter as he gets this new extension? What's your approach when guys cash in like that? You've been around a long time.
I think it's individually, part of when you give a guy a contract like that, you are also analyze, and I'm speaking for Howie on this part, but you're also, well, what's this guy going to be like when we do this? So obviously Howie's confident that in this case, hopefully he'll pick his game up even more.
What sort of jump have you seen, if any, in Jahad Campbell?
It's too early. I mean, he missed the whole offseason, one practice yesterday. I mean, he's doing fine, but to give you anything of substance is way too early.
How valuable was it for him to get the experience that he did last year with Nakobe here and now,
it was valuable, and some of it was invaluable too, in that, if you remember, there was a few weeks there where we had to play him at outside linebacker because we ran out of guys. That set him back a little bit as an ILB. So it helped, no doubt.
How long do you think it'll take to get Jonathan Bernard into the mix once he gets into practice?
Yeah, it remains to be seen. Obviously, he's a veteran player, so I mean he knows the league, knows how to play, but we're going to be asking him to do some different things that he hadn't had to do in his career, and that's really what he's going to be missing with this time off. He's going to miss a good bit of camp.
What are those things?
Occasionally on drop a little bit, occasionally.
Is that something you think he's capable of?
Yeah, I do think he's capable of it, but he's got to learn it. And the only way you learn it is to do it. He does a good job in the meetings. He's paying attention. He's focused, watching practice, but, it's not the same.
Do you expect him to get on the field before the start of the season so you get a little time to work with him?
That remains to be seen.
Just got AJ Epinesa. How does he help that depth on the defensive?
Remains to be seen, but I will tell, and I told AJ this, and I told it to him in front of the whole team too. For a guy that's being asked to do a few things that he's never done before, I thought he did a nice job yesterday with it. It was very encouraging.
Nick, when you're looking for a big year from Felix Hunt, he seemed on the verge last year of really becoming an exceptional player.
Yeah, I am looking for that. He's very capable of it.
We've seen from Quinyon in year 3.
Just Quinyon being Quinyon, he's got a great work ethic, demeanor. and it's just picked up yesterday where he left off last year.
Is there a benefit for your defense seeing a different style of offense in this camp?
Yeah, it is. There's a lot more moving parts with this offense, so it does help us.
What were your impressions of Epinesa before he came in?
Who?
AJ Epinesa. What were your impressions?
I didn't really have any.
If it with Uar, a guy like Uar, how do you proceed with him? Do you try not to throw too much at him, or what's the plan?
The PP plan. Lots of patience and lots of persistence. You know, the day he put on a helmet here was the first time he ever put on a helmet. He hadn't had shoulder pads on yet. That will be a new experience for him. So everybody, including himself, including us, need to temper anything expectations down. He's got a process to go through. Process, that's a bad word around here. Go ahead.
What have you seen out of Ty Robinson's development, or by what you've seen in the second year so far?
Too early, especially with the D lineman offseason. We don't have pads on. We're not going to have pads on here for another few days. Too early.
With Brainerd down, as you have PG on speed dial, is there any conversations of maybe trying to get him back in here?
I don't know. You guys had Howie up here yesterday. You should have asked him that.
I did.
And what did he say? He ducked you? He Fauci'd you?
Is that what you're going to do? Are you going to Fauci me on that?
I'm at the mercy of Howie.
And the process, what did you think of the LeBron side of the Sixers?
Obviously, the Sixers had a great sequence there because it wouldn't have happened without Brown getting here. But it still wasn't the greatest signing or acquisition in Philadelphia sports history. Who knows what it is? Jeff McClain can't answer. Huh? Pete Rose.
Back here.
There you go. There you go. Not even close. But, if you were born after 1970, you wouldn't have known about it. So that includes most everybody then.
Moses Malone was pretty good. I thought you were going Sixers.
No, I was going all Philly sports.
You have to evolve every year, obviously. You see evolution in your team every year. Kind of a big picture question, but what have you seen from offenses when you analyze this offseason? What became something that was for trendy this past year, and so you have to adapt to?
I don't think it's so much this past year. It's kind of been a few-year evolution. The motion, all the various motions is kind of the new fad. And I wouldn't say new. It's been a few years. And it's kind of expanding itself. That to me is part of the new. That's the newness. Back in the 90s, late 90s, it was empty formations. Those are still here. All the various motions. Well, it's twofold. One, they're trying to get a tell on the defense, potentially. Two, they're trying to get you out of position a little bit. Hopefully, they're trying to disguise their final formation and their intentions. A whole lot of things. And some of it does do that. Some of it, and there's certain calls that we're in or any defense is in, they could do cheetah flips with their motion. It ain't going to matter. There's other calls where it does cause a little problem.
We always hear that eye discipline is so important when you're dealing with that. How do you teach eye discipline?
Repetitions. You got to see it in practice, and they got to experience it because it is. You're right. You got to see what's happening. Again, it all depends upon the call you're in and what technique you have as a player, where your eyes need to be and what you need to respect and not respect in certain calls. As an edge player, there's certain calls they could do whatever they want. We're just going to ignore it. There's other calls where they got to respect it. So, and that's just repetitions.
What's the next step for Nolan Smith?
Just stay healthy. Nolan's year last year was choppy because he had some injuries to deal with. He missed 5 or 6 or 7 weeks last year. But I'm very confident. I thought both him and Jalix had great days yesterday.
With Jahad Campbell, how much more can you handle in this
in year two?
That remains to be seen. Again, it's been choppy, but we're confident he can do it.
How about Zach Bond, I guess?
Pretty much.
How about Zach Bond?
He may end up there on occasion, but as a full-time player, yes.
With Zach Bond, I guess, how much more can he handle this year compared to last year, especially as you build continuity with the system?
Oh, he can do whatever we want him to do. He had the experience the first half of last year of being the main signal caller when Nakobe was out. So he'll be that now this year full-time. Whatever you ask Zach to do, if he's not good at it right now, he'll fight through to get good at it.
What are you seeing from Moro Ojomo?
Yeah, I like him, How he needs to save some money for him, too.
Trot got some first-team reps at linebacker yesterday. Is that something you want to see, or is that just a natural rotation?
We'll mix and match it all the time. I think it's very important in training camp that you're not always working with the same guy next to you. I mean, and particularly at ILB and safety, because things happen, right? And then all of a sudden, like at ILB, Jihad can't play, and now Bond's got to work with Trotter. Well, we don't want the first time that happens to be in a game. They need to work with each other and practice some. Same thing would say, those are the two main positions. There's others, but you got to mix and match a lot.
Yeah, just who's replacing Reed in terms of communicating in the back? Who will be the guy communicating the safety Reed blanks?
That'll be both of them. When it's Makuba and Epps back there, they'll both do it. Epps is very capable of that, and I think Andrew is too, and he'll get even better and better. This being his second year and being more confident. And Cooper, I think, when he's there, he'll be capable of it. Certain things.
All right, there he is, Vic Fangio, with some jokes today and, of course, some insight as well. I think the big part of Vic Fangio, what you heard, biggest takeaway from me would be Jonathan Grenard. He said that Grenard, of course, he was put on the PUP list, and he suffered an injury while lifting weights, I guess, said should be back soon, but he said he will miss a good bit of camp. And, he's a new player, so you would like to see him out there learning the defense, getting all the terminology, et cetera, et cetera. I think that was one of the big takeaways there, is that Vic Fangio admitting that Jonathan Grenard will miss a good bit of training camp. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN. He also talked about signing Jalen Carter. I don't know. Did anybody out there get the feeling that he wasn't largely on board with Carter? He was just kind of like, well, yeah, Howie wants to sign him. He must have faith in him that he's not going to be, a problem. I mean, it didn't sound like he was like, yeah, we needed this guy back here. You would like to hear that Fangio was a little bit more excited about the fact that he got Jalen Carter back there. He didn't want to really be committal a lot on anything else there, especially the safeties. He essentially was pleading the fifth, if you will, on that and a couple of the other questions that were asked regarding some of the battles. All right, Sports Bash Live. The Eagles' defense, you just heard from the coordinator, but what about their offense? Could it be a special year for one Philadelphia Eagle? Well, the Unsportsmanlike Moment of the Day thinks so. That's coming up next.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And if you're not down with that, we got two words for you.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And it just keeps getting better.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 3 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Broadleaf Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Call 609-390-3907 or visit them online at broadleaf.net.
When you are the last man standing in a alleged beef, the narrative is there for you. Jalen Hurts. Individual success, team success, narrative. Let's talk about this. Narrative through the roof. Why is A.J. Brown not there? Everyone thinks it's because of him. Everyone thinks A.J. Brown is not there because of Jalen Hurts. Team success. So that's a check on the narrative. Team success. The Eagles, with this combination of Hurts and Sirianni, with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter and all the guys there, seemingly are always good. 10 wins or more. Team success. Check. What people are doubting is not the narrative being there. It's not the team success. It's the individual success. Is Jalen Hurts as good as people like me say he is? And I think the answer this year will be yes. And I think Jalen Hurts will be the MVP of the National Football League.
That's on Evan Cohen on Unsportsmanlike. It's our Unsportsmanlike moment of the day. And listen, he has said this before. He's doubling down on that. I love Ev Co. He's a big fan, a big friend of the show, but I don't see how Jalen Hurts wins the MVP. To me, it's not a knock on Jalen Hurts. I just don't see the passing numbers. I don't see the rushing numbers. What made him an MVP candidate a couple of years ago, 2022, was the rushing numbers were there for him. In this instance, I don't see where he's going to put up anywhere near the rushing stats that he did to get himself in the MVP conversation. If you think about that, in 2022, when he was second in the MVP, I think he ended up, or he was the favorite for a while there. I think he got hurt late in the year, ended up fading off a bit. But in that season, why was he an MVP candidate? Well, he ran the ball for 760 yards and 13 touchdowns. I don't see those numbers coming close there. And I just don't think he will throw for over 4,000 yards and put up the gaudy touchdown numbers that you need to put up to get the votes if you're not going to have the rushing statistics to go with it. So Evan Cohen, I got to say, you are dead wrong on this one, man. And as much as I'd like to say I'm on board with you here, this isn't coming from a Hurts hater by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not Chris Canty talking about Nick Sirianni here. I'm talking about Jalen Hurts. And to me, MVP, you are shooting for the stars, but you are landing on the moon, buddy.
You know, Jalen Hurts is going to be turning 28 years old this season, Mike. You don't think that he has another level to grow or evolve or advance to?
I do. I think he could evolve or advance to another level. I don't think it's an MVP level. I just don't think that. What are the MVP numbers looking like? 4,500 yards, 4,800 yards, those kind of numbers. I don't see those numbers for Jalen Hurts. I just don't. I mean, the most yards he's ever thrown for in any season is 3,800 yards in 2023 was the most yards that he ever threw for in the season. That's not even over 4,000 yards. You find me a quarterback throwing for under 4,000 yards and winning the MVP. I don't know that I can see that marriage happening. You?
The last one to do it was Lamar Jackson, but like you said, it has to come down to the rushing numbers too.
Exactly, and I don't see the rushing. If he has 3,800 yards and 760 rushing yards, that's a different story. I don't see that happening. You can tell my friend Evan Cohen I said that. Evan, Michelle, and Canty, weekday morning 6 to 10 on 97.3 ESPN. That is our Unsportsmanlike Moment of the day. When we come back, we're going to go and take a look at the AFC West.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now upgrade to a Tempur-Pedic and get a $300 instant gift, plus next-day delivery. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. Next-day delivery available on select mattresses and subject to location. See store for details.
Comedian Joey Diaz.
Because you don't need 20 friends. You just need 3 motherfuckers and you can take over a country.
62 and still slinging.
Okay, that's what.
Sixers.
Oh, baby!
And Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Andrew DiCecco. Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
We're never satisfied. That hunger for more. That hunger for more. I have it. Everyone has it.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
And Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. The Football at 4 takes us to Eagles training camp. And camp is open for business. Yesterday, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni did the honors. They took the podium. We just played for you the Vic Fangio press conference from earlier today. We'll get a couple quick Eagles questions for Andrew before we look at the AFC West as our division previews continue here on the Sports Bash Live. The first question I would have for you, Andrew, would be Jonathan Grenard will miss a good bit of training camp here. Is this a concern, hearing that come from Vic Fangio on his first day that he meets with the media?
A mild one. It's not something that you just want to say there's nothing to see here. Jonathan Grenard had a shoulder injury last season that limited him to 12 games, and he hasn't yet participated in team drills, and I'm including the spring, of course. He is a veteran. He has played a ton of football, but as Vic Fangio outlined today, he's going to have to do some different things that he hasn't had to do in his career. So you would ideally like to get him on the practice field and work him through some of those things. But it's not a long-term concern as of this time, and they're expecting him to be ready.
All right. One other quick one. He pleaded the fifth, I guess, if you will, on the safety position. Why does he not want to show his hand at safety yet?
I think he was, kind of joking when he said that, but he also added that it's a competition, and he's not just going to hand the job over. First of all, Cooper DeJean is going to be the safety when the Eagles are in nickel, but the question when the Eagles are in base, the question becomes who's the safety when the Eagles are in nickel. Right now, the front runner is Marcus Epps. I wouldn't rule out Michael Carter II, but you have to let that play out. He's not going to tip his hand one way or the other because there's still a lot that has to be determined.
All right, Andrew, our division previews, we're flying through. We're almost to the NFC. We're at the AFC West today, which means we are getting really close to the start of the season. And, of course, the Eagles this season in the AFC West, they will not play anybody from the AFC West. So we will not see an AFC West team on the schedule. But one of the big teams is the Kansas City Chiefs. As we know, they did not make the playoffs for the first time, I think, since 2014 that the Chiefs have not made the playoffs. But let's get your initial thoughts on what their offense will look like this year with Patrick Mahomes towards ACL, his LCL, but it is expected that he will be back. He's got a couple of new toys here.
Yeah, on paper, it should be a fairly dynamic Chiefs offense. You added Kenneth Walker from the Seattle Seahawks. I think he's one of the better running backs in the game, in my opinion. And then, of course, you have three speedsters in Tyquan Thornton, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy. The offensive line, Creed Humphrey leads the way there. One of the better centers in the game. Kingsley Sumatea as a guard, Josh Simmons. And you have Travis Kelce still. We'll see how much he ultimately has left, but they have certainly pieces from which to build.
They did lose running back Isaiah Pacheco from Vineland. They also lost wide receiver Hollywood Brown to Philadelphia. You take a look at that offense with Patrick Mahomes and Kelce, adding Kenneth Walker. Sounds like you like what they've done offensively, but what about on the defensive side of the ball? They lost Trent McDuffie. When you look at their defense, is this a championship-level defense?
Well, I like Chris Jones up front, George Karlaftis. They added R. Mason Thomas in the draft, who's a player that I really liked. I spoke to him at the podium at the NFL Scouting Combine. Peter Woods in the first round. So, they have pieces there. And you look at the second level, Drew Tranquill's an underrated player, I think. He's been around. Nick Bolton, someone who Eagles fans are probably well acquainted with his play in the Super Bowl 57. And then you have a secondary that I'm not overly enthused with. Anytime you lose a Trent McDuffie, you're not a better team. A Jalen Watson, you're not a better team. And you're talking about Alohi Gilman comes over from the Ravens, Cater Coho from the Dolphins. I mean, they did draft Mansour Delane, the kid from LSU, and I like him, but it takes time for players to be able to step in there and help you. And I don't know if they have a ton there on the back end that you could really hang your hat on year one, kind of ready to go. L'Jarius Sneed is a player who's bounced around. He was with the Tennessee Titans. He's a little bit older now. They have some pieces, but I don't know if they have enough.
Well, they had a problem last year in one-score games. They were 1-9 in one-score games last season, and in the division where they have dominated, they went 1-5 in the division. They were 20-4 in their previous four seasons. Their big addition, though, was Kenneth Walker, who obviously was a huge factor for the Seahawks last year. How much better do you think, or different do you think Walker will be over what they've had in the past at the running back position?
I liked Isaiah Pacheco. I think he's a nice story as a seventh-round pick, local guy out of Rutgers. And they upgraded pretty significantly, in my estimation, with Kenneth Walker. That's something that they could really lean into, the ground game. And they have Amari DeMarcado, who I believe he was with the Cardinals, if I'm remembering that correctly. They drafted Emmett Johnson in the fifth round as well. So I think they're gonna lean into the running game because for as talented as they are at receiver, Tyquan Thornton is sort of an unproven entity. He's a speedster, but there's still questions there. And then you have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. So, I like Kenneth Walker.
All right. The Chiefs did not make the playoffs. We'll see if Andrew thinks they will be back there. Let's go to the Chargers. 11 wins under Harbaugh, and he has done that each of his first 2 seasons, but they have not won a playoff game here. And when you take a look at the add and subtractions here, not a big name that jumps off the roster. They got rid of Greg Roman. They're going to have a new offensive coordinator there. But this is Justin Herbert now in season number 7. Can he finally get this Chargers team deeper into the playoffs?
Yeah, Justin Herbert is a very talented quarterback. I feel like that needs to be reiterated because I know he takes some, he takes some shots, not necessarily nationally, but locally, because of the lists that come out and who he's compared to. But yeah, he needs to be able to deliver in the postseason, plain and simple. But there's a lot of layers as to why the Chargers haven't reached expectations. He hasn't played well in the postseason, but he's also a big reason why they are they're viable. So yeah, I think he's. I feel like I say this every year, but I feel like he's ready to take a step forward and lead this team to another postseason run.
Yeah, 54 sacks last year. Their offensive line was a mess, but Andrew, when their offensive line was healthy, you can make a strong argument that they possibly could have been a Super Bowl contending team.
Yeah, they just didn't have the offensive line, and I think if those out there haven't watched Chargers football, think back to the Eagles-Chargers game when the offensive line was just really leaky, and Justin Herbert was playing banged up in that game, and he took a lot of hits. They've added different pieces like Jake Slaughter out of Florida. He's going to play guard for them, I believe. They took him in the second round. They had Biadasz at center. Cole Strange comes over. Joe Alt is there at tackle. Rashawn Slater. So if they're healthy, and that's a big if, they should have enough pieces up front to support what they have in the skill position with Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey, who I like quite a bit as a route runner. He's really good working the intermediate levels of the field. Amarian Hampton at running back. So, yeah, I do like their complement of skill players.
Defense. By the way, they changed coordinators on offense and on defense. Their defense was really good last year. Jesse Minter, he is now the head coach in Baltimore. When you take a look at the defense, they drafted Messidor from Miami in the first round there. When you look at that defense, this is a pretty darn good defense if that offense can be more consistent.
Yeah, the defense isn't too bad. A player who I really like, who's not quite a household name, but he should be, is Dian Henley. Their linebacker. He's a sort of an undersized outside linebacker, but he's extremely fast, covers a lot of ground. Tui Pelotu is an edge rusher that they have. I like him. And Tarheeb Still, one of their corners out of Maryland, is someone that I was at his pro day, and I thought pretty highly of him. He was drafted in the 5th round in 2024. He's slated to start for them. They also have Cam Hart out of Notre Dame. I interviewed him before the draft in 2024. Another really interesting player there. And yeah, their back end, apart from Derwin James, maybe has some questions because they're not exactly household names, but I think that there's a lot of really interesting pieces for them to really work with.
All right, there's the Chargers. This is a really interesting division. I think you can really make an argument for any of these three. We'll see who Andrew likes at the end of our AFC West preview. We go to Denver, who was neck and neck last year. They lost Bo Nix in the playoff game last year, and that really changed the whole dynamics for them. They did add Jalen Waddle. You could possibly say that is that the difference-making move for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I like this offensive bunch. You're talking about Bo Nix, and I'm expecting him to take a leap forward next season, having that postseason experience. He's coming off the injury, of course, so we'll have to wait and see. But the running back situation, they have J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey out of UCF. He was teammates with Eagles cornerback Mac McWilliams. Cortland Sutton is perennially he's an underrated player. Sort of a big body possession guy, but someone who knows how to use his frame to his advantage, and he's a quarterback-friendly option. Jalen Waddle comes over. Troy Franklin from Oregon is there. He was a 4th-round pick in 24. yeah, I mean, I think that this is a unit that you look at it and there's a lot of continuity there. And with Bo Nix, I think, and being such a young quarterback, I think that'll be especially paramount.
They traded their first-round pick away to get Jalen Waddle. 14 wins for the Broncos last season, but they got 68 sacks, 11 more than any other team. When you think about the Broncos, their 14 wins weren't because of this high-flying, high-powered offense. This might be the best defense in football, Andrew.
Yeah, Mike, it's really interesting. They have a lot of pieces, and every time I've talked to a young pass rusher at the podium at the Combine, a lot of those players were comparing their skill sets to Nick Benito, and that seems to be someone who is widely recognized as, and rightfully so, as one of the premier pass rushers. He has a lot of intriguing tools. He leads the way there. They have Jonathan Cooper, another pass rusher, Zach Allen on their defensive line, DJ Jones, Alex Singleton, former Eagles linebackers there. Their secondary, they have Riley Moss. Jaquan McMillan's been a really good story as an undrafted free agent. He was when I look at Christian Parker, that was really his first developmental project there, and he's really established himself as one of the better nickelbacks in the NFL. And Patrick Surtain's, he needs no introduction.
Andrew, obviously, you take a look at that team, the Denver Broncos. It's going to be Knicks. Where are you on Bo Nix? They need a healthy Knicks, but I don't even know with a healthy Knicks, are they good enough?
I have my doubts, especially you have a quarterback that I'm not quite sure that he has, I don't know that they have the infrastructure in place to be a pass-happy offense. And I think with a young quarterback like that, you need a running game, a strong running game to be able to support that. I don't know that they have that. J.K. Dobbins has been awfully banged up of late. R.J. Harvey's a really good complementary piece, more of a pass-catching back, has good quicks. But I don't know that they have enough there offensively to really make a dent. They're going to have to be a defensive-heavy team. They're going to probably win a lot of their games based off of their defensive prowess, I would imagine.
All right, let's finish up with the team that had the number 1 overall pick, and that was Fernando Mendoza. Right now, he is listed as the backup. They went out and made a ton of moves. Tyler Lindenbaum, they got a new coordinator. They got a new head coach. They got Nakobe Dean. On defense, you got Kirk Cousins, who currently is the starter. When you look at this Raiders team, have they made significant steps? Let's start on the offensive side of the ball.
Man, I don't think so. I look at Tyler Linderbaum, who I like. He's their center. They have Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. He's their guard. So from an interior perspective, I like it. But in terms of just their overall group of skill players, aside from Brock Bowers, and you're talking about Trey Tucker, you're talking about Ashton Genty, where I don't know if they have enough from an offensive line standpoint to really for him to really be able to make a difference, nor do I believe that they'll be in a position where they can lean into the running game. I think they'll be throwing a lot, and I don't know that they have a lot of options there. Jack Beck is another interesting player. They signed Jalen Naylor, who I think is a really good number 3 option. He was with the Vikings, if you remember. So, yeah, we'll have to see how things shake. But right now, I think that's going to be a really, really lackluster offense.
Nakobe Dean is there. Quay Walker's there. They got Max Crosby back. Kwity Paye, they signed. Have they done enough on defense to make them interesting?
They also have, again, Thomas Booker, who former Eagles defensive tackle. He's a starter for them. And he was acquired in that trade that Jacorian Bennett got to Philadelphia. Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean. I like that group right there. That adds some structure, some stability to that group. You talk about Max Crosby, Jeremy Chin. I liked him quite a bit coming out of Southern Illinois. He hasn't really been able to stick. Eric Stokes with the Green Bay Packers. I was a little higher on him coming out of the draft out of Georgia, I believe, and he really hasn't been much more than a number 2, a capable number 2 corner. So yeah, you could see the progress. I still don't know that they're ready to contend for anything from a divisional perspective this year. They still feel like they're a couple years off, especially by that point. Mendoza should be up to speed, and they should have a little bit more firepower offensively to help them out.
All right, Andrew, let's see who wins the AFC West. What is your predictions for this season?
I'm going to say the Chargers, Mike. I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this division, followed by the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos, and the Raiders.
All right, so Denver 14 wins at third.
Yeah, Denver was a tough one for me. I just don't know if they have enough offensively there to be able to put up enough points. You're going to be asking an awful lot of your defense every week based off of how things look on paper.
All right, we will stay in the West. We'll go to the NFC West next week when we look at our division previews. The Eagles training camp continues. Andrew DiCecco for the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com, here on today's Football at 4. All right, man, appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, those breakdowns, great stuff. One thing, he likes the Chargers, Chiefs, Denver, who won 14 games last year. He has them slated for third, and then the Raiders in last place. Now, the Raiders have come out and said that they are going to, right now, have Mendoza as the backup. I don't know how long that lasts. They have Kirk Cousins slated to be the starting quarterback there. I don't know how long you go into a season if you're the Vegas Raiders with the expectations being so low. However, they did make a lot of signings, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. How do you go into that season? And if Cousins is struggling, how long does he stay? Or do we think that Mendoza takes that job by the end of training camp?
I don't think Mendoza takes a job at the end of training camp just because of the fact that I think Mendoza is a little further behind than maybe people want to admit. It's forgotten about that before we got to Indiana, had that wild season. He was a whatever quarterback at Cal. He was not some like big time prospect that transferred.
There's a guy who was on the team there last year, Kenny Pickett. Reminds me a little bit of that. That Pickett was like a nothing burger pretty much. And then he had the one season at Pitt and ends up parlaying that into a first round pick. And I know he wasn't the first overall pick, but Pickett was just a whatever. Mendoza reminds me a little bit of that, where he just had the one big season and that parlayed him into, and by the way, his one big season was bigger than Pickett's one big season. He wins the national championship, so he should be commended for that. But I agree. I don't know that Mendoza is a difference-making player at number one.
I've always looked at him as kind of, and I know this might not be the best comparison, but he gives me a bit of a Chris Chandler vibe, where it's, hey,
Chris Chandler.
Yeah, the Falcons
I know
quarterback.
Who he is. I'm like, that's a random name. I mean, yeah, we've got a ton of people in the audience who are like, oh, yeah, Chris Chandler.
I'm just trying to think of somebody who is like, he's good enough, but he's not anyone you gets excited about. Like no one.
I mean, there's a lot more guys in the league that are more well-known that you could have gone with than Chris Chandler.
Well, first of all, I think, okay, so let's go around the league right now. I think Mendoza's potential is better than Pickett. I think it's better than Geno Smith, for example. Like, I think he has like an okay potential, but I think his ceiling is probably Kirk Cousins at his peak. I think he's going to.
Maybe he is a guy like the guy who's there with him, Kirk Cousins, who, and even when Cousins had great years in Minnesota, you were never,
right.
or Washington, you were never overly impressed by him.
Right. He would throw for 4,000 something yards and 30 some touchdowns, but no one was like, Kirk Cousins is the man. He was just a stat compiler. Guys like Cousins and, my mind, I go back to, this might be unfair, but, a Warren Moon, for example, like they're just guys who put up numbers. Vinny Testaverde, he's another one. Guys who could throw it around, but I don't think Mendoza's arm talent is as good as the Moons, the Testaverdes. I think it's closer to Cousins.
All right, there is our Football at 4 AFC West today for our division previews. Next week, we'll do the NFC West, so we'll be down to 4 weeks left before the start of the season. Andrew's back next Thursday here. Tomorrow, we'll do Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Did you know on this day was the first time, speaking of Adam Kaplan, his music for Football at 4 is the NWO music?
Yep.
It was on this day 30 years ago that the NWO debuted their music.
Ooh, that's cool. That's a cool fact.
There's a little factoid for you. Speaking of which,
got SummerSlam this weekend,
Yeah, so apparently the YouTube TV ESPN Unlimited deal is now unlocked.
Oh, really?
I believe that the first event you'll be able to watch, if you're a YouTube TV subscriber, you'll be able to watch SummerSlam.
That's fancy.
So you don't have YouTube TV anymore, though.
I got rid of YouTube TV a while ago. I'm on.
Will this bring you back though?
That's a great question.
You
And
know,
I
YouTube
think,
TV, and I'm not
yeah.
getting paid by YouTube TV, so don't act like. But apparently, they have a tier now that you can buy that is just like a sports and news tier or a sports tier, or like you can go by like what you watch, a little bit more a la carte style.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically doing a la carte now, and I would have to do a little research into how much is the YouTube TV on, starting August 1st, which is this Saturday, because that's why it unlocks is because it's August 1st. Is the YouTube TV now going to be less than what I'm paying for the Disney, Hulu, ESPN bundle? I get Peacock for free, but I got to pay for the NBC Sports add-on to it.
Mm-hmm.
You think about, I have what else?
You got a new subscriber promotion of $67.99 for your first 3 months. Now,
but my question is, do I count as a new subscriber? I've already been.
Use a different email address, maybe.
Now
you can get the sports plan.
Yeah.
Discount it for $54.99 for the first year for new users.
Okay.
So if you just want to get the sports plan, that you can go that route.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look into that. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying I got to look into it.
I have a question. Okay.
I might have an answer.
So the other night we went downtown and parked my buddy's car. Okay.
Okay.
So it's got one of those parking things that you have to, shoot the QR code.
Yes, I've seen those.
So I did it and I paid it, but I'm not even thinking about the license plate number. I put my license plate number in instead of his.
Oh.
So he got the ticket right here.
Yikes.
So can I fight that? That I actually paid the parking, but I used the wrong license plate number.
I think you could fight it for one reason.
But is it worth the fight? Like, am I going to have to do something?
Yeah, you gotta generate a PDF of the digital receipt that they emailed.
I got the receipt that says I paid at this exact time.
Right.
But I mean, do I have to appear? Do I have to do that? Or is there a way that I can just say, hey, look, I paid the ticket. I just put the wrong license plate number in. I was the guy that was in that spot.
I mean, are there cameras around there?
I'm sure. I mean, but still, I have, like, if I'm the person that's saying, hey, that was me, you gave my buddy the ticket, we were driving his car and I put the wrong license plate in.
There's got to be a way to fight that. I would just think that you should be able to turn your digital receipt into a PDF, send it to somebody, and then you turn it into a nice little email thread chain back and forth. And I mean, it's a lot better to go through the email chain than go show up at court.
Yeah, no doubt. I just want to be like, hey, listen, I was the person in the car. I paid for the parking. I just put the wrong driver's license in. The
now, is that
like the long license plate number?
Right. So
because when I have the Park Mobile, this is why these digital things, it defaults to my license plate.
Right.
Yeah.
My question is there a thing on the ticket that tells you if you want to dispute, please contact?
Yeah, but it says plea of not guilty, which means that I have to probably show up to court.
See, that's
if you just pay the thing, you're pleading guilty, which
right.
I don't feel that I'm guilty in this situation. I actually paid. And by the way, the pay to park was like $3.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. But it's probably less than it is in Wildwood right now.
Yeah, it's like $5, I think, an hour or something like that in Wildwood, right?
It's something crazy.
Somebody was telling me that the other day. Yeah. All right. Well, see if we can. Anybody out there that wants to help me out with that one? 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board. That was Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, it is brought to you by the Fanatic Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. When we come back, Earnshaw filled in for me yesterday, and he is apparently so tired that he could not do Nuggets today. I gave him a 4-hour block yesterday, and he said, I am famished. I cannot do the Nuggets today. So We have another edition of Josh's Jerky coming up next.
It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Keeping the fans entertained and happy.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. It's the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
All right, 4:32, the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. No Nuggets today, but we do have another edition of Josh's Jerky, who's stepping in for the Nuggets today, who stepped in for me yesterday with PG. And, of course, we've got Josh's Jerky today on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Josh, what do you got for me today?
Well, I got a few different things I want to hit on with you, Mike. Kind of give it a little potpourri of items because you weren't with us yesterday. So I'd love to get your reactions to some of these topics and items. You were just talking Eagles with Andrew DiCecco. So I want to start with the Birds. And one of my biggest takeaways from the Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni presser, which, as we know, Nick Sirianni spends half the presser saying absolutely nothing. So we don't focus on Sirianni. We focus on Howie Roseman. And Howie made an interesting comment, Mike, about the importance of why they were trying to get the Jalen Carter deal done. And I want you to react to what Howie Roseman said at yesterday's presser.
The defense tackle position in the league, in college football, it's a deficient position. You know, there's hard to find guys like that. And so we feel like it was a priority. Where the market was when March opened was kind of in transition. You know, you had guys like Dex ready to sign, obviously Simmons. And so some of the reasons that it got to this point were just because we were trying to figure out the market.
It's an interesting admission there from Howie saying the position is deficient. And that was one of the reasons why they wanted to get the deal done. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's a good way to sugarcoat it, just to be like, why couldn't he just come out and say, we think that Jalen Carter is the centerpiece of our defense? Go back to the play he made against the Rams. Go back and talk about those things. Now, the problem is you have last year. If the reporter's doing their job and he gives you that, you follow up with, was he consistent enough last year that made you feel like you should have given him a contract extension? Is that why you were hesitant? The shoulders, the spitting incident. He wasn't as consistent last year. Did any of that factor into why, you know, it took longer than maybe some people thought it would?
Well, one of the follow-up questions was about, you know, the off-the-field concerns. And, you know, Howie basically said, where are you getting that from? And there was this whole back and forth. Him and the reporter was like, where did you get that from? Oh, it was an SI report. And Howie's like, well, we wouldn't resign if there was off-the-field issues. So it seems like, and by the way, Howie did say earlier in the presser that, you know, they're trying to build still through the trenches. So I guess that's an indirect way of saying what you're saying, Mike.
Say that again.
When Howie said they're building the foundation of the defense to the trenches, is what he said earlier in the presser. So,
but that's what they've always done. I mean, they've always been on both sides, the offense and the defense. They've always, and he says it's a position that's devoid of talent, I guess.
Right.
The Eagles have always kind of targeted defensive tackles. I mean, they did it with Jordan Davis. They did it with getting Jalen Carter. They've always kind of had guys that played in that, you know, middle of the defense that have been Fletcher Cox before them.
Corey Simon before that.
Yeah, that were all first-round picks that they kind of built their defenses around. So we know how much they value that position. You know, the question was asked, I think Jeff McClain asked the question yesterday, did you hesitate signing him because of the off-the-field concerns? And he said,
that's what I mentioned before, that was the follow-up question to the initial question.
Right, and he says, I don't know what off-the-field concerns. Since he's been here, he's put his head down. He's not wrong. He hasn't gotten in trouble off the field. He had the on-field incident against the Cowboys last year in the opener where he spits on Dak Prescott. But outside of that, has he gotten himself outside of the Georgia thing? Since he's been a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, has off the field been a concern? And I don't remember something that stands out.
The only incident was that mix up his rookie year. It was his wife and him at the supermarket, and there was that whole like misunderstanding. And then it came out that, you know, basically the supermarket messed up. You know, that's what happened. It wasn't Jalen or his wife. So, but that was kind of like semi blown out of proportion by the online blogosphere for like a couple days.
Don't remember that. As you're saying, it doesn't even ring a bell with me. So that's how probably little and insignificant that situation was. But yeah, I mean, I think the stuff from Georgia has kind of stuck with him. He fell in the draft.
I was going to say, which is a shame because what happened at Georgia was a very unfortunate accident. He wasn't out there like selling drugs or beating women or anything.
No. It would have to do with something with speeding in the car.
Yeah. So the incident is that he was in one vehicle and a former teammate and one of the team, like, GA, graduate assistants, was in another vehicle. The other vehicle crashed and people died in the accident. His car, he didn't crash into them. They were just both drag racing, and then the other car couldn't keep up and then swerved and people died. So there was kind of like a...
Well, that's a pretty big deal. I remember that it was like a pretty... I didn't remember what exactly happened. So he was operating his car.
Right.
They were street racing, and
the other vehicle couldn't keep up and they crashed.
Correct. The people that were driving the car that he was racing against, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. They were the ones that got into the accident that resulted in, I believe, 2 players, correct?
I thought it was a player and a graduate assistant. By the way, the supermarket incident was November 18th, 2023.
Mm-hmm. So because he was a part of the drag racing, the incident that the fact that he did something, the drag racing part was a poor decision. That's part of the reason why he fell in the draft in the first place.
So it was a Georgia football player, Devin Willock, and Stafford Chandler LaCroix. Those were the 2 who died in their vehicle when it crashed.
So, that decision-making forced him to fall to Philadelphia. And then I do think that there has been some, tardiness in meetings, and he was benched in the 2024 season. I don't know if it was for a game. Maybe it was the start of a game.
It was the start of a game, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, So, yeah, obviously the Eagles didn't think that his off the field, anything related off the field, was a factor in extending him because they gave him $106 million guaranteed dollars.
Right. And as Fangio kind of slyly, backhanded saying, well, Howie wouldn't give him that contract if he thought he was a problem. So Fangio.
Yeah, but did you also agree that Fangio didn't come out glowingly gushing about the fact that he's got his defensive tackle back?
No, but I will say that Fangio, at this point, Fangio really only gushes over a couple guys at this point. He doesn't really gush over anybody.
Well, I would hope that the guy that got $106 million guaranteed would be one of them. Unfortunately, it didn't seem that that's the guy that he was all that excited about getting back.
I don't know. Maybe it's tough love.
Could be, but I would think that if I'm the defensive coordinator and you just got your defensive tackle signed long-term, you would be a little bit more excited about that.
Maybe it's just Fangio being Fangio. Maybe you're right. Maybe there is something Fangio's kind of saying a little message, but we'll have to wait and see. Something that Fangio was asked about at his presser today was about LeBron James. And yesterday was one of those days, Mike, when you weren't here, that I was actually mad that you weren't on the air. Okay. Because I feel like this whole story that came out about LeBron would have been right up your alley. And no offense to Nick and Pete, they did fine with the story, but I really want you to get in on this. So the story initially was kind of like semi-revealed during the Game Over podcast I dropped yesterday morning, that LeBron, contrary to previous statements and reports, did have one in-person meeting. Okay, so not everyone was voice notes that was previously put out there. And all the internet now has kind of been reacting for the last 24 hours to the point where Rich Paul told Shams on the pod he was surprised that Shams knew about it, but Shams didn't report it. Now, Shams had his reasons for why, and we'll get to that another time. But I wanted to give you, this was Shams. So basically 8 hours after the Game Over pod came out, Shams went on ESPN television and gave the shorthand explanation about LeBron had a secret meeting with one team
in the cloak of secrecy, LeBron James granted just one team an in-person meeting in free agency, and that was, sources tell me, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and that was the early part of July. I'm told that LeBron met with a Cavs brass in his home in Akron, Ohio. That brass consisted of VP of Business Grant Gilbert, President of Basketball Operations Kobe Altman, Assistant General Manager Brandon Weems, and these two sides, it was just these four in this room. They sat together, talked about his basketball legacy, what a reunion, a third stint in Cleveland would look like. And I think giving that meeting, granting that meeting to them, a lot of it, more than anything, was respect for the organization. We know about his history there, led them to a championship for the first time in 50 years. He's a hometown kid, hometown team. He wanted to do right by the Cavs more than even the Sixers or the Heat by giving them that meeting.
And again, Mike, before you jump in, the timeline is the very first week or weekend of July. So when he was playing golf all around Ohio, he did have a secret one-on-one meeting with the Cavs brass.
So I'm interested in that. Why I'm intrigued by the fact that you're interested. Why I think this would be something. The fact that he gave the Cavs the in-person meeting, and that the fact that they didn't land him.
Well, it's the fact that the previous reporting was he was giving nobody in-person meetings. But now all of a sudden we're finding out, though, well, wait a minute. He had one in-person meeting, and 4 weeks later he chooses the Sixers.
Well, I think, though, they were saying from that point on, there will be no in-person meetings, and that's it. If you want to get to them, it's going to have to be a voice message or blah, 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 blah. No one said what happened prior to that. You know what I'm saying?
So you're taking the Max Kellerman spin on Rich Paul, that Rich Paul doesn't lie. He just omits the truth sometimes about the narratives.
I don't say that, because I think Rich Paul, I thought that the way he handled the Ben Simmons thing was horrendous. When Ben was here, the way that I thought, in fact, I remember talking about Rich Paul and how poor of a job I thought that whole thing was being handled by Ben's agent. I don't know what kind of job Rich Paul does. Is he good? Is he bad? I have no idea. I know that he's basically got a job because him and LeBron are buddies.
Right.
That, so he's lucked into that job. I don't know that he does a good job, a bad job, or what, but I don't find it to be crazy that he met with them, because I think what Sham said, it was the first week of free agency.
So it was that first weekend of July when he was in the Ohio area for those several days.
Mm-hmm.
And initially the reporting coming out was he's playing golf. He's not taking meetings. He's just doing his thing in Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and they explain on the Game Over podcast, which, it's just so much to play in just one clip, but they were basically saying that one of the reasons why Cleveland was always in the running, because LeBron basically gave them the first shot at him.
Which isn't surprising. If you ask LeBron, I think at the beginning of this, he probably thought he was going to go to Cleveland. And
so you think that's part of what happened, was that he met with Cleveland because he initially thought Cleveland was going to be it, but then things started shifting?
Well, I think once the Sixers ended up getting Jaylen Brown and then they reached out to his camp, I think then he started to say, okay, they're kind of interesting.
Now, the other thing that was revealed in the Game Over pod was Rich Paul basically made it sound like that LeBron basically kept changing his mind almost every day, that he was leaning
that
toward
to me, I think that is a little bit more adding to the story to make it sound like, oh, he was so conflicted. He was bouncing back and forth. Like, I don't know. I don't know that I believe all that.
So you think go ahead.
In the end, I think that when the Sixers got Jaylen Brown, that opened his eyes to maybe, and then there was a lot of reporting, that he talked to Joel secretly, right?
Right.
And that Maxey was texting him very, like, the in-person meeting thing, we're acting like it's such a big deal. But in the year 2026, I mean, most people are texting and going in that direction. Maybe a video.
FaceTime.
Right. I was going to say, maybe a video chat. Is that considered an in-person meeting if you're doing a Zoom call or a FaceTime call? Who's to say that Tyrese Maxey didn't FaceTime and be like, yo, big bro, I need you in Philly, man. And then him and Embiid reportedly met, and Embiid assured him that he is healthy and ready to go, and that he will not have any problems with his knees and, all that stuff. So I don't know.
I just think it's interesting how they're trying to almost like retell some of what happened. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the news that came out today that LeBron's media company has come to an agreement with ESPN. So
I did see this.
This final, run he is on, is that documentary is going to be on ESPN platforms. So LeBron's version of The Last Dance, you will need that ESPN Unlimited you mentioned earlier, Mike.
So is this the cameras following him as he was making this decision?
Apparently the cameras have been following him since last season. And apparently it's like the last season of the Lakers through this upcoming year with the Sixers. So it's like the whole.
So are you
everything.
telling me that we're going to have another pandemic and then we're going to be waiting for LeBron's thing to drop on Netflix so we can
I
have
hope
something
not.
to watch while there's no sport? Well, maybe they'll wait until there's no baseball next year and they'll just put that out there.
There you go. That's the move right there. When it's like Memorial Day weekend, there's no baseball, they drop the LeBron documentary.
It could be the good timing. It's just like, hey, there's no baseball, but we have you for an 8-part LeBron miniseries.
Oh man, I don't not wish baseball to happen, but it's a good pull by you. Right
No,
there.
but I'll tell you what, I'm starting to get more and more worried that the baseball season is in peril.
Because more and more people are talking about it.
And I don't mind having this discussion right now, unless you have something else that you really want to jump in here, throw in for the jerky. But you have competitive balance right now. There are 21 teams that are still alive for the playoffs in some way, shape, or form, maybe even more. So if you are fighting for competitive balance, if you are the player side, you're saying one of your lowest payroll teams, the Tampa Bay Rays, are in first place.
Right.
You've got the Toronto Blue Jays, who are one of the highest payrolls in baseball, in last place. Same in the National League. The Mets have one of the highest payrolls. They're the worst team in your league. You have the Brewers, a low payroll team. They're in first place. I mean, so it's not a great argument to say all these teams are in the playoff race. Now, you've got a situation in the wild card where in the American League, 1, 2, 3 are in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. 9 teams are within 5.5 games of a wild card spot. And in the National League, you got 1, 2, 3. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that are still. So you got 9 teams in the American League and 9 teams in the National League that are still in play for within 7 games of a wild card spot. So then you add the teams that are leading the division. So there are 6 more teams. You got 18 and 6. You got another 24 teams that are legitimately playoff contenders right now. So if you are fighting for a salary cap, it is not a good look for you.
No, it's not. And I think that's what you just laid out is probably the players' biggest argument. And I'm glad you mentioned the Blue Jays because that's where I was going to go next. So we played a little audio earlier, but I want to play the rest of it now. So John Morosi went on MLB Network this morning and was really pounding the table for this idea that the Phillies and the Blue Jays could make a trade. Now, the names that he was hyper-focusing on was Gausman, Hoffman, Bieber, and Springer. John Heyman has come out later and started pushing the Dalton Varsho narrative. So apparently there might be 5 guys, but Morosi says there's a couple specific reasons why Toronto and Philly might get this deal done. Here's part 1.
One of the reasons why I mentioned the Jays, they, like the Tigers, have gotten clarity in the last couple of weeks about what their direction will be as sellers. And remember this, if you're the Blue Jays front office and you're trying to deal with a team, the Phillies are your spring training neighbors. And when you've got that ability to look at their prospects all the way down to instructional league, the complex league, all the way up, it allows you to have a greater familiarity with who you are getting.
What is your reaction to that narrative?
I mean, that seems like a little go-go gadget to me. The fact that you're neighbors with them in spring training, that you can, have a better understanding of their prospects. Well, then why haven't the Phillies and Blue Jays just been making deal after deal after deal? Like, oh, I see your guy in Dunedin. I really like him. I'm going to make I like your guy in Clearwater. Like, let's just flop them. Like, the only trade I can think of between the Blue Jays and the Phillies, I said one that I could think of, and it's funny because I originally was going to say was Christopher Sanchez, but he was with the Rays, not the Jays. When was the last time the Phillies and the Blue Jays made a trade?
I'm looking it up right now.
I mean, he's acting like these two teams have tremendous knowledge of each other's systems, so they're constantly pulling deals off. I can't even think of the last time they made a trade.
They actually made a trade last year. Left-handed pitcher Josh Walker was traded to Philadelphia for cash considerations. Yeah. Before that, the last trade that was made was 2018 when Aaron Loop was traded to the Phillies for a minor league prospect I've never heard of in my life.
So this one doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I don't like the players in the deal. If you're telling me I end up with Jeff Hoffman and Dalton Varsho, I don't feel that the team is all of a sudden a championship contender.
I have zero interest in Dalton Varsho. I don't understand the infatuation with him.
I feel the same way. Varsho does nothing for me. He's a left-handed batter, so he's a center fielder. What does that do for Justin Crawford? If you're putting Varsho in center field, what are you doing with Crawford? Varsho does nothing for me, and quite frankly, offensively, he's a nothing burger. He doesn't do much for me in the offense at all. Hoffman doesn't do much for me. I know Hoffman's an upgrade or possibly an addition over what you have, but it doesn't really excite me all that much. Gaussman, same thing. I think we talked about him last week here. I think you need to do better than that, Dave Dombrowski. And just because Dunedin's a cool town doesn't mean you have any better knowledge of their farm system than you do other teams. That's a bad take by Morosi there. All right, coming up next hour, Dave Gallagher is back. He had a week off last week. He was down and instructing some of the top baseball prospects in Major League Baseball.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
All right, the 5 o'clock hour here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, we talked to Dave Gallagher, former Philadelphia Philly, 9-year Major League Baseball veteran, each and every week on the show. He was off last week, and he can tell you a little bit more about what he was up to last week. Pretty cool opportunity, him working with a bunch of players and stuff. But while you were gone, Dave, the Phillies, what has happened to this team? They got swept by the Marlins. You got Bryce Harper saying, we need help. You got the manager saying, maybe you should keep your mouth shut there, Bryce. This thing got ugly pretty quick while you were gone.
What the heck happened? I was checking in, checking the scores when I get back to the room. The days are long down there, that program. I've been doing that for 11 years now, but it's very well worth it. But anyway, I think when I left, they were about 2.5 or 3 out. To the Braves, and now what are they, 6.5? So, and you're right, a lot of turmoil going on the team, bad feeling, and I think it can be pointed back to in the offseason or even last year. They had to know what their weaknesses were, and they just didn't plug them enough. And here we sit right now, the team that looked like they turned the season around. Is kind of fading, and if a couple of these guys have injuries, I hope Wheeler is healthy, but between him and Schwarber and JT, there's 3 guys that are very tough guys. You got so many different personalities. They're not whiners. They're going to play through pain, and that worries me. That concerns me if you're a Phillies fan, because JT's throwing just has been off. All season he's been like a lot of one-hops at second base. And this is a guy that when you knew he was a starting catcher, that in itself shut down the running game most of the time. And so even if he's not productive as a hitter, when the other team isn't running, it's a huge advantage. They're running now. And sometimes, yes, it's on the pitcher. I know Duran doesn't hold runners well, but they're not afraid to run when JT's catching. And if he's not producing on offense, that's not a good picture. Wheeler, he's tough as nails. He is not an excuse maker, but yet his velocity was down. Hopefully he gets right back to where he was. And then Schwarber, at times he is their offense. So, that right there, if the 3 of them aren't healthy, that could change the mindset of Dombrowski. Do you give up prospects? Or if it looks like you're not going to have a fully healthy team with what you have, you may just stand pat and suck it up for the year, not give away your prospects. It's a lot to be seen coming up here.
Dave, what do you make of what Harper said? You're a player. You're in the locker room. He comes out and says, we need help. How was that received with the boys?
You might remember, Mike, a few weeks ago, when I said, when the year I played on the Phillies, we were stretching the outfield in spring training. And Darren Dalton and Lenny Dykstra said that we could use an innings eater. You might remember me saying that, and your listeners might remember. And they both looked at me and said, we'll go in and talk to Lee. It was Lee Thomas was the GM. And they did. They had that kind of a relationship. But there's the difference. They were saying, we'll go in and talk to him, not say it to the press. Like that's the one disagreement I would have with Bryce. But don't forget, Dombrowski said something to the press. What you might remember the statement, he's not a superstar anymore. Or
he said he's not elite. Not elite.
He's not elite. So that was said to the press. Like you just, to me, you don't do that because you are affecting the other person and how they make a living. Right? There's no reason to do that. That to me is a one-on-one, or go in with a couple of leaders on the team, and it doesn't have to be contentious. Just, hey, can you have a few minutes? We want to talk about the status of the team. And Mattingly's right. Like if you think about the statement itself, we need help. Well, everybody in that locker room, they can kind of look in a mirror and say, he must be talking about me. There's quite a few that can say that. He's probably talking about me, unfortunately. So I think that was Mattingly's point is, there's no need to say that. My guess is, though, now weighing it out, Dombrowski probably fully intended to make a move, and the team playing so well when they was allowing him to wait and wait and wait and see what kind of a deal can I make here without giving up too much. Well, that didn't work out because now they're hanging on to a playoff spot and seem to be fading. Now I think if you're going to give it a shot, you got to make a move that changes the mood in the clubhouse. An impact type of move where everybody says, "Oh, now we got a fresh start. We got new bodies, or at least a body, and let's see if we can turn it on for the final 2 months."
So you got Bryce Harper that comes out and says, "We need help." What did you think of Mattingly's retort, though? I mean, if you're a player and the manager comes out and essentially poo-poos what you just said.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think the way he said it, I watched and I listened to how that was going to end up, because you're right, there was some pushback. But the way he pushed back when he said, you're basically saying that our team isn't good enough, and like, who is that? Like, who are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That was Mattingly's response. I like that response because he wasn't necessarily taking the side of Dombrowski or Bryce. I think he's aware they need help. I think everybody knows they need help, but he didn't want to put it on any specific group. Like if you say we need a starter, well, you're speaking directly to Nola and Rangel. That's what you're saying. We could use 2 starters, or we could use a right fielder that's got some pop. Now you got Hill and Rincones, now Dela Cruz. That's a direct remark about their play, and
right.
it can be true, but these are the guys you're in the locker room with every day. So I think it would have been perfect if it was just behind closed doors. Nobody needed to know about it except the players on the team that went in and sat with them and met with them, because then they'll get the right answer. Dombrowski might say, "Look, guys, I've been trying. I know we need help in certain areas, and I've been trying, but we don't have enough to give." He'd have to be careful what he says, because one of the guys in that room asking him might be one that he's offering.
Right. Well,
do
you think Dave Gallagher is with us, 9-year Major League Baseball veteran, played with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1995, and has gone through a bunch of different trade deadlines, and we'll get your thoughts on that coming up in a minute as well. But is Harper directing his message to Dombrowski as, "Hey, you said I'm not elite. Well, you haven't done your job well enough. We need help"?
He probably is. I don't know, because I feel that. I really do. I don't know what has happened to me, but I think it's since I started doing this show with you that, I've started like really getting into the Phillies. And I was always kind of like, when you get bounced as much as I did, your favorite team was the team you were on at the time. And growing up, I was a Giants fan because my father used to tell me stories about Willie Mays, and he saw him at the Polo Ground. But now, I didn't really have a favorite team. I just would watch games for the interest of the game itself. And now all of a sudden, I'm really following strong the Phillies, and I'm getting frustrated. So I can imagine the Phillies fans are very frustrated at not, nothing being done, and waiting and watching where you were solid and you were about to have a shot at taking over first place in the division, and to just watch it melt and nothing being done. And what kind of a mood does that cause into the locker room? So look, the players have to be number one, responsible. They have to be accountable first. And I don't know, who could you say is doing fantastic? We kind of been waiting for Marsh to fade. He has faded. He's holding on now. But to his credit, he had been the most consistent hitter on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Bowman,
he's down to 280, Dave Marsh.
I know. No, I've been there. I had a year where I was at 305 or 303 at the break, and physically I got worn down. I was an everyday center fielder, and you start thinking about just taking your position 9 times, sprinting on and off the field, then anything you do during the game, just being on your feet. And now all of a sudden you play 30 games in spring training or a few less maybe, and all those games during the season. And I started to fade, and I remember seeing it go from 300 into the 290s. Oh, well, that's not bad. And then it goes into the 280s, and all right, I better hang on. Then it's 270s. I finished that year at 266. And I remember, wow, I was just holding on. So it wears you down physically. It wears you down mentally. I do think he's a big guy, and he's strong, and the guys maintain, their diets are good, now. So it's probably a little easier to maintain your physical strength. And I do think he'll get hot again. He's just in a lull right now. I hope, for the sake of the Phillies, I hope so, right?
Yeah, well, he's been struggling a lot against left-handed pitching. They're almost platooning him again. You got almost 3 platoons in the outfield, Dave. You got De La Cruz up here. He's now playing with the Rincones. You've got the center field with Hill and Crawford. And then you've got Marsh and Sosa kind of platooning in left field. And you wonder, how realistic is that by Monday? Dave Dombrowski almost has to find some sort of answer, you would think. But as we've talked a lot about, we're a couple days now from the deadline. He's got a lot of holes he needs to fill, and that's becoming apparent almost by the day. Yesterday, you have a 6-0 lead. Your bullpen can't hold that. You lose 1-0 the day before, so it's your offensive warts. And the day before that, your eighth starter could only get you 3 innings, and then your closer blows the game. I mean, they lost in a variety of ways the last 3 days.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think as the weeks go by, the trade, the needs and the wants that you have in a trade, they keep changing. They're changing because all of a sudden you need more. Now, the first thing I would want to know if I was Dombrowski is the health of Zach. I know he's saying he'll be fine, but when your velocity drops like that, 2-3 miles an hour, I mean, it could be something in his shoulder. It could be something, right? I mean, dead arm this time of year, that usually happens in spring training, and then they recover. Hopefully he can come back, because if he misses time, or he's throwing it, 90, 91, 93, I think we saw what can happen, right? It's not as effective.
Watch Aaron Nola.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what he has become. I still believe that theory, Mike, where, players are like chameleons in the era that they play in. They figure out, and the first day you walk onto rookie ball in minor leagues, you look around because you're wondering, am I good enough? You look around, you see this kid from California, this kid from Ohio. Yeah, why is he on the team? He don't look that good in batting practice. Oh, he can fly. That's why he's drafted. You start measuring everything. And this guy's got power. He can't run a lick, but he's got power. So that's why he's on a team. And you measure yourself against them. And then time goes on. I think guys are getting paid on the mound for the most part because their arms are powerful. And they throw as hard as they can, as long as they can. And they light up the radar gun. And their command typically isn't that great. The absolute elite will have both. They'll have power in their arms, plus they'll have command. But I think the game has changed on the mound, and a guy that used to be able to hit both corners, like Nola, hit outside corner, pitch to the inside corner, and then Maddox, and then steal a little bit more from the umpire. Let me go 2 inches off the outside. Now 3 inches off. And with this ABS system, I just think they are falling out of the picture, and the power arm becomes, all right, we need swing and miss. So we need guys that can throw past you. And they're not so trustworthy, because they can lose their command and walk 1 or 2 guys, hit a guy. But I think the game has changed. And if you look at the offensive side, it's almost, okay, that has become, you've talked about it. The types of hitters that are excelling and getting paid, they're getting paid as free agents, they're getting paid in arbitration, that you can hit 210, 208 if you have 35 home runs and you drive in 80 plus. So if you look at the swings, it almost is like the count doesn't matter. They're swinging from their heels. And like I said, I don't blame the player. They're figuring out this is how I can get paid. And so the game has changed. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's definitely changed. And I think they're going to keep doing what they're doing until the evaluators and how you get paid until that changes. And will it come back? I don't know. How do you feel, Mike, about that ABS? How do you feel like as a fan? Do you enjoy it?
I feel that many times, to me, it feels like I don't need an ABS overturn on a ball that is out of the zone or in the zone by a fraction of an inch. To me, that's not what this was intended for. It's for an egregious miss, not that one missed by a half of an inch. And it gets overturned because he missed it by a half of an inch is a half of an inch. I mean, that's a ball, it's a strike, just because the ABS says when that ball goes up there and that tiny little red lights up, you're like, oh my God, they're overturning that. Come on. Like, so I think it has become, it should be used, in my opinion, is if it's an egregious miss that someone just calls down and says, hey, you missed that by whatever it is, 2 feet, 3 inches, not a half of an inch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And it gets frustrating to watch for sure. And it definitely has changed some of the protocol, like what catchers would do with umpires. I used to like to teach the catchers that I had in my organization for years how to develop a relationship with the umpire. Don't ever show him up. You know, that's why you didn't yank a pitch that was 6 inches outside and pull it back to the middle, because the umpire knows it's a ball, but you're making the crowd think that it was a strike where you're holding your mitt. So they boo the umpire. Don't do that to the umpire. Get him on your side. And if he's missing, we used to have a signal. I'm not going to yell out to the catcher, hey, was that a strike? And make him answer in front of the umpire. No, we pull your mask, hold your mask, and that's telling me he missed that pitch. If he misses a lot, I'll go out to the mound, wait for him to come out and talk. Like, there was all this protocol, and it's gone. It's gone. And I don't know what the umpires think right now. You know, that they're still rated. They get rated. They get tested on everything. You know what I half-heartedly said on your show probably a month or so ago? I was just joking, but it's going to happen, where I was saying it's going to come up in arbitration, the success rate of a catcher or a hitter, how many times he challenges, and his success rate. Like, they're starting to talk about, well, this catcher, he's got a 65% success rate on challenges. Are you kidding me? The guys are going to start getting paid as if like that's war or that's stolen bases. What are they even going to call it? You know, I just I get frustrated by all of that, but I think mostly, you know, I'm seeing it affect guys who use the art of pitching. You know, let me get that outside corner. Now let me go look. Look, I'm a hitter saying this. And the pitcher used to be able to steal a little bit more. Let me go out a little bit more, 2 inches off. And the catcher's working with him, and they're trying to find that out early. If we can find out in the first inning, he'll give us 3 or 4 inches off the outside corner. And I think I appreciated it because I played center, and I could see everything. I could see where the catcher was setting up, and if the pitcher could hit him, like some of the guys, Maddox had unbelievable control. You know, I used to hear his bullpen between starts, and you'd hear somebody cursing and turn around. It's him, because he asked the catcher to set up on the inside black, and he missed by 2 inches over the middle. That's how much of a perfectionist he was. But you watch the guys that are having success now, they're just reaching back and throwing it. If they get through 5, maybe 6 innings of throwing 100, 102, 103, and just blowing people away, that's sought after. You know,
Dave, I want to get your take on what it's like right now, because the Phillies, they lose the game 6-0. You're starting to feel that this thing's slipping away a little bit, although they have fallen from this first wild card to the second wild card. They are now the third wild card. So they are starting to lose some ground here. You got the trade deadline on Monday. What are these last couple days like when you're hearing your name, or you know that Bryce Harper says, like, we need help. What are these last couple days like for these guys?
Well, you're talking to a guy that this time of year was like hell for me because I got traded so many times, and it was this time of year. From the Phillies, I went to the Angels, and I remember Frank Koppenbarger. He was at the time he ran the locker room. He was the head locker room attendant. Then he became traveling secretary. But his job was to come and get me off the field and bring me in to sit down with the manager, Jim Fregosi, and Lee Thomas. And I think they even brought the owner down to tell me that I was traded. And then I got to make that dreaded phone call to my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm getting traded from Philadelphia, where I'm driving from my house and saying, goodbye to my kids and seeing, my wife coming home at least during the homestands. I'm going to go to California for the final 2 months of the season. I'll see you when we play Baltimore and the Yankees. Like, that's basically my wife was saying, are you going to go? Am I going to go? I'm like, Jane, that's how I get paid. I don't get paid if I don't go. But she was serious. Like, are you going to go? And looking at me like I'm supposed to just walk away from the game and stay home.
I always
now.
wondered that, Dave, about spouses of professional athletes where, the team's mathematically eliminated. It doesn't, do you really have to go? The game doesn't mean anything. Like, if they have just no understanding of what these games really mean and how important they are, even when the game has no mathematical meaning.
Mike, it's not good. It is not good. I always make you laugh with these stories, but I walked out of my house in Millstone, Central Jersey, and everything was great. Me and my wife were just talking, laughing, and whatever. I walked outside. I was gone for 20 minutes. I don't even know what I did. Something in the yard. When I came back in, she was so pissed off at me. And I said, "There's something wrong?" And what I found out is she was watching Oprah Winfrey, and her topic of the day was professionals whose career, I guess, aids in them cheating on their wives. And they had like a baseball player, a rock star. And I'm like, I just walked out of the house. I came back in, and all of a sudden I'm a jerk of a husband. You know what I mean? I did nothing. Yeah. I think I raked leaves or whatever, but it's not easy. We have 5 kids. So in my case, it was, when I'm going on the road, I'm leaving her behind with all these kids to take care of and take them to Little League practice and the doctor and parent teacher meeting until I get back. I always try to convince her, like, we're a team here. This is a partnership of us trying to get the best out of this we can. And if we do it well enough, I'll be able to retire in my late 30s. Like, I always try to paint that picture, but certainly wasn't easy for sure.
Well, that's what the Phillies are kind of dealing with right now. Many of them are waiting to see if they will be here after Monday. We know Bryce Harper wants help. We know Dave Dombrowski is trying to get him help. We know they need help, and they need a lot of it. They need pitching. They need bullpen pitching. They probably need a bat or maybe 2. We'll see what happens this time next week, Dave, when we chat again. There will likely be a new bat arm here, and we'll look forward to talking to you about all of it coming up. Thanks, man.
Mike, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'll leave you with this. I think Turner's going to be an outfielder after the break, after the deadline. I would do it to help him and the team. But, get him out a shortstop to, relieve the heat that's on him. And for the next 5 or 6 years, whatever they have left, put him in the outfield and get yourself somebody who can, consistently play defense. They need that. It's not
that would be shocking, but I would be on board with that 1,000. Zach Neto's name has been brought up a bunch. He's a shortstop, hits for power. I saw something today. I don't know how they even do this anymore, but they said if he hit at Citizens Bank Park, he had 19 homers now. If he hit at Citizens Bank Park, he would have 28 homers. So add that to your lineup.
The ball flies there in the summer. It really does.
Yeah. All right, Dave. We'll catch up with you next week, man.
All right, Mike. Take care.
Dave Gallagher, everybody, 9-year Major League Baseball veteran. When you guys listen to Dave, do you always learn something? Do you always hear something that is of interest that you're like, man, I always enjoy listening to these conversations? I know I do. We could have kept going. I could love to hear some more stories from Dave about the trade deadline, definitely on moving. Like, one of the things I thought about asking him there before we ran out of a little time is, what is it like to have to move positions? Like, why is it so crazy to say to Trey Turner, you're going to move to the outfield right now? He says, I do it. We'll talk about that coming up more on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Maynard's in Margate, 60 years of Maynard's. This Sunday is their big 60-year party. Cheers to 60 years at Maynard's in Margate. They're going to have live music and prizes. You can win tickets to go see the Birds this year, concerts, and more. Cheers to 60 years at Maynard's in Margate. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And if you're not down with that, we got two words for you.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
When it comes to game day, every fan needs an ace. Coming soon, Chachi's 13th Floor. Proud to be the official sports bar industry ace restaurant of 97.3 ESPN. In the meantime, stop into Villa Raffici for happy hour Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. Chachi's 13th Floor. Coming soon.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
We have the perfect solution for sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com.
The Phillies' plan can take a number of different routes. They could go and try and go all in for a star caliber player, and they've had conversations with the Los Angeles Angels about Zach Neto, who you say Trey Turner's at shortstop already. Trey Turner might not be at shortstop long term, and having a guy of Zach Neto's caliber, not just with his glove, but especially with the bat and with the power, would really help that lineup.
Jeff Passan, of course, ESPN's Major League Baseball insider. He says the Phillies have had conversations with the Angels. Zach Neto, the name that he throws out there. Now, Neto, many people might not even know who he is. Plays in Anaheim, so he's not a well-known guy. You're on a team with Mike Trout. You got Neto and Trout, and the team stinks. So one would say, how good is this guy? Now, is he a star player? Not necessarily. The one thing that he adds to this possibility, to this lineup, would be power. 232 batting average for the season, not great. Does have 19 home runs, which would be, third on this team right now. I'd be interested to see what they would do with him in the lineup. 324 on base, not great. Plays shortstop. That's the part of this that I think is the conversation. As Dave just said, he would make a trade, and he says by the time he's on next week with us, Dave, he thinks that Trey Turner will be playing the outfield, which would mean that the Phillies acquired a shortstop. The question I may have here, okay, what am I willing to give up prospect-wise to get Zach Neto? Is he a good enough player? Is he a difference-making enough player to say, I'm going to empty my farm out and go get this guy, a guy who's hitting 232 with 19 home runs?
I think the only reason why you might consider giving up some higher level prospects is because of the control factor. He is arbitration eligible for the next 3 years. So you control him through 2029. He can't be a free agent until 2030, and you're getting him at an economical number. So you could argue that if you had to give up a Gage Wood or an Arun Escobar, just use those as examples, at least you're getting a guy who's not going to be a free agent in a year or two, or not a guy he isn't even going to be 30 until 2031.
Yeah. Can I give you a number that would worry me?
What's that?
Strikeouts. He leads the American League in strikeouts. He has struck out 149 times. I believe that is the most in the American League. So you are adding another high strikeout guy. Now, your point is valid. He is a controllable guy, doesn't make a lot of money, maybe kills two birds with one stone. If you play him at shortstop, maybe that escalates the move of Trey Turner, and I would be A-okay with that. I don't need to see Trey Turner play one more inning of shortstop in my life, ever again. So I would be all on board with making a move that would get him out of that spot.
I will say really quick, Mike, he has never been top 10 in the American League in strikeouts until this year. His previous 3 years, he did not finish in the top 10. So is it possible that this is a bit of an anomaly because he's on a bad team?
It could be. He has 149 strikeouts this year, which is
number one
worst
in the American
in
League.
all of baseball. I don't know about the American. Is it both leagues? Let me look. In the National League, no. Schwarber has the most, then Neto. You would have the top two strikeout guys in all of baseball on your team.
I get it. It's a problem. I'm looking at his baseball reference page, and the fact that he's never been top 10 in strikeouts before this year is a bit intriguing to me. That maybe, I don't know, maybe he's feeling pressure this year. Maybe he's saying, I'm contract eligible. I'm trying to maybe do a little more. Maybe he comes to the Phillies. He'll feel a little less pressure because maybe the Phillies will be like, we don't need you to be our number 1, number 2, number 3 hitter. We just need you to be the guy after the top 3 hitters.
I wonder where he would hit in the lineup. I saw somebody say that he would, put him in the number 2 hole, and then Harper would hit 3 and Schwarber would hit 4 behind Harper. Is that a possibility? Or you just keep Schwarber where he is, Harper where he is, and Neto would hit in the 4 spot? Is that a possibility? I think it definitely, though, gives the team more flexibility at the top of that lineup. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm conflicted because I think that you got to put someone in that 4 hole, and Neto's got the power to be in that 4 hole. The problem is, like you mentioned, the on base percentage, it ain't getting you excited at all. He is boom or bust hitter.
He hits leadoff, by the way, for the Angels. You could possibly hit him in the leadoff spot, but not a great on base percentage. And to move Turner to 2, that's something that you could try. But if you want to separate the lefties, the problem is Harper, though. Harper not wanting to go anywhere but the number 3 spot, it makes you have to have the lefties back to back if Schwarber's in the 2 or the 4 spot.
Right. Like ideally, if there was a scenario where you could do Turner, Harper, Neto, Schwarber, Bohm, I think that would be an improvement.
Turner, Harper, Neto. Yeah, I mean, that would be something. I just don't think that Harper's would do it.
Yeah, Harper's crying enough already. We don't need him to complain about more stuff, right?
So Neto, I would be lukewarm on. I like the thought of the player getting the shortstop, the money, all that stuff, the power. I just don't know what level of compensation I'm willing to give up. Like, am I willing to go Andrew Painter?
I wouldn't go Painter, but I do think that if you're asking the Angels to trade their young infielder, if you told me that I have to trade at least Arun Escobar, who's one of my top prospects, who is himself an infielder, I wouldn't be against him as part of the package, right?
I don't have a problem with Escobar, but that's not the level of player that I mentioned. Like Escobar, yeah, I have no problem. I'm saying Painter, Wood, I'm going to that level of player.
Well, Passan did go on to say when he was on SportsCenter that he expects the Phillies at this deadline to potentially empty out the farm system.
They might be forced to make a choice just to go and get an outfielder, a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and maybe another bat on top of that. But if they do try and pull the double, get both, it is going to absolutely gut their farm system. We've seen Dave Dombrowski do that at past locations and in past jobs, and frankly, to great effect. But the Phillies have tried to be more about sustainability in recent years and extending this window. And that's what they're hoping to do here. They know they have elite starting pitching, and they want to build around that and see if they can make a playoff run like they did a few years ago.
I have no idea, what the organization thinks about the long term of this team. Like, are they in that front office saying, listen, we know we're going to be bad in 2028, 2029, 2030. Nobody in that farm system is changing that for us.
So Todd Zolecki, Todd Zolecki had a stat on the Philly show the other day. I think it was Monday's episode, where he said that he did a little research. He pulled up the research. So over the last 10 years, 82% of all prospects who have been traded have never basically amounted to anything in Major League Baseball. 82% have a WAR wins above replacement of 0.9 or worse at the Major League level. So you could argue, Mike, that, as Ruben Amaro likes to say, darn the prospects, just empty the cupboard. Let's go.
I don't usually have a problem with that way of doing business. I mean, if you're telling me I'm getting an established Major League player, I would prefer them to be guys that, like you mentioned, Escobar, who I just don't have any spot for him on my Major League roster right now. Now, if you think that Bryson Stott is movable, I would be more inclined to say I'm ready to move on from a Stott and Bohm, because those two guys as we talked about with Oscar and Jeff earlier for Phillies Fastball, I have a bunch of guys on this team that have been a part of all the failures. It's time for me to change that up. Something they should have done in the offseason and they didn't do.
I think the other side of the coin is that part of the reason why Neto is also amplifying the conversation is because of the trade that just happened, because the Angels just dumped Logan O'Hoppe. Logan O'Hoppe was the Phillies' former catcher of the future. He became the Angels' catcher of the present, and the Angels are basically so far down the rabbit hole that now they're dumping him.
He's become disappointing. I will say that. He looked like he was, at first it looked like the Angels won that trade.
Right.
And then it looks like the Phillies had won the trade because the deal, by the way, O'Hoppe was traded for Brandon Marsh. So you were like, oh, man, you traded this young catcher who's now starting, and you have an aging catcher who then you had to pay $15 million a year to come back because you didn't have anybody to replace him.
Right.
Ultimately, if Zach Neto is the best you can do, is that good enough? Probably not.
Probably not, but and I don't want to sound like I'm one of our texters at 609-403-0973 on the White Horse RV text board, but if there's a scenario where the Angels are willing to trade Neto, but they're insisting on you got to give us, let's just say it's Gage Wood as part of the deal, right? If there's a way you can get one of those other pitchers that are on the Angels that the Angels are going nowhere, okay, I'm not going to be mad if you find a way to maybe throw into the deal. And I'm not saying this is ideal, but throw into the deal a veteran pitcher like Kirby Yates, who's going to be a free agent this year, he's having a solid year, not a great year.
Well, I think if you're trying to go to a team that's out of contention, you're going to try to get two pieces from one team.
Right.
An arm, a bat, whether the arm is a Soriano, a relief pitcher, or a starter in Yates, something that will suffice and fix two spots. Now, they have made in the past, they have made two deals with the same team on the same day.
Speaking of the Angels,
they did the Orioles deal with when they got Austin Hayes, and then they made a trade and ended up getting
Seth Johnson. They traded. One deal was Anthony Dominguez. The other one was Gregory Soto.
Yes. But they get back. They got Austin Hayes back in the one deal. I don't remember who they got back in the other deal.
I saw Seth Johnson was the
he
Soto
was part
deal.
of it. Yeah, Seth Johnson came back. But did they get nothing for the big league roster in that deal? But they've done, and then they traded with the Angels when they got Brandon Marsh, and then they got Noah Syndergaard. So they have made deals with these teams where they've gotten some players in the past.
The Soto deal was Jess Johnson and another minor league pitcher, Moise Chance.
Gotcha. Who has been hurt essentially his entire Phillies career.
He can't stay healthy. But again, by the way, the Twins last year, the Twins was two deals, right?
Yeah, Bader was one deal,
and
so don't be surprised if they end up dealing with the same team and making two separate deals with that team, which is kind of odd. Why not just include it into one big deal?
Yeah, I don't. I
feel
Steve like that's
better deal and put like 7 guys in the trade.
Well, that's what John Morosi was trying to do this morning at MLB Network. He was trying to trade half the Blue Jays roster to the Phillies.
All right, coming up, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. You can be a part of the show on the White Horse RV text board. We'll finish up the show coming up next.
You're listening to the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
And it just keeps getting better.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
In celebration of America's 250th birthday, watch as the sky comes alive with show-stopping drone shows that the whole family will love every Friday in July at Ocean Casino Resort.
You're listening to The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
The 5 o'clock hour of the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cross County Connection, providing fare-free transportation across southern New Jersey. For details, call 856-229-7571 or visit driveless.com. All right, get ready to get out of here on this Thursday night. The Sports Bash is live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the Phils. Watch the show live. No Phils tonight, right? Phils are off tonight. They'll be down in Baltimore for the weekend. Anybody going down to the weekend series? Camden Yards, easy drive, 2.5 hours. Get down there, bang, and go and come right back.
Phillies are traveling to Baltimore with Glenn from Northfield, who won the contest yesterday at NA Social.
Yeah, and that's the game for tomorrow, right?
I thought it was Saturday's game, but I'm kind of out of the loop on this whole thing.
Game. I think it's tomorrow's game. Yeah, it's the 31st. Tomorrow's game, Friday, July 31st is the game. So they're leaving tomorrow. There's a bus trip down there. Glenn's a part of the trip. He'll be down there. Go to the game, come back. It's a great time. They do a great job getting everybody there. You've got, I think Jeff Kerr said earlier that Andrew Painter is going to pitch tomorrow for the Phillies. So that'll be something to watch as well. So you get the Phillies pitching Brian Keller tomorrow and the Iron Pigs throwing Andrew Painter tomorrow. I know Painter's been pretty rough, but what sounds like a better game to watch, the Iron Pigs or the Phillies tomorrow night?
I think, isn't Gage pitching tonight?
Not sure. I don't know Gage's spot in the rotation. He's at Reading, so I'm not sure when he actually pitches. But that being said, no baseball for the Phils tonight. LeBron is a Sixer. Remember that. Got that on the can't take that away from us right now, right?
Can't take that away.
You got Eagles at training camp. We played Vic Fangio earlier today. I think the big takeaway from him was Grenard being hurt and him saying he doesn't think he'll participate in training camp all that much. Not that that's the biggest deal in the world because they don't play in preseason games or anything like that. But
it's a big deal to Fangio because Fangio likes his guys to get reps.
Absolutely. The fact that he's not able to get out there and he's a new player.
That's why it's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. That he's got to get the terminology and all the reps and all that stuff. And he's not getting the opportunity to do that. So I hate the fact that Grenard is going to miss a lot of training camp here, not because he's going to, play. He won't be able to play in preseason games or anything like that, but because he won't be out there at practice to get ready. By the way, somebody watching on YouTube says that Wood pitches tomorrow night for Reading. So you got Gage Wood tomorrow and Andrew Painter tomorrow. Interesting how they both line up with the Phillies spot that has a TBD tomorrow.
Convenient.
Now, I don't think either one of them is getting called up to take that start, but maybe it'll line up down the road. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. Tomorrow, plenty more from Eagles training camp. We're starting to get into Eagles training camp now. We'll have football at 4 tomorrow with Adam. Also, the Phillies get ready to go to Baltimore to take on the Orioles. We'll be all over that series because it's the last series before the trade deadline. Mike McGarry will be here tomorrow. All that and more. All right. Sports Bash Live. Coming up next, we have the best of the Sports Bash hour. And then we're back tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night, everybody. We will catch up tomorrow. Josh Edding produced the show. I'm Mike Gill. And, of course, you can follow me at Mike Gill Show. And don't forget, subscribe to the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. We will catch up with you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday night.